and we will shortly be going live on YouTube, so call all your YouTube friends. And please remember to subscribe to both our YouTube and Facebook pages at The One Mic Show, and follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. We are also taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak, so please save that number. Now, last week we had an interesting talk with two 19-year-old Gen Zs regarding conflict culture with their parents. Now, later tonight, we'll do a brief recap on the episode to get reflection from parents. What did you like or not like about the conversation? Did you have any aha moments? And would you rather see a part 2 of this conversation or have a parents edition? Please let us know what you think in the comment section. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Moshfire na kudunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och, jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, and Masai by choice. Si chagui, si kagui, na si bagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we'll be talking about the revised service charges that the government has put through. And we'll also talk about shadow banning and the impact of new age censorship. We'll also talk about the government rescinding recently revised service charges, and South African EFF leader Julius Malema's sharp words against President Ruto while in Kenya. Now, please drop comments below regarding your experience at KRA, and of course, not forgetting that the hit or miss is back. We're going to have a hit or miss segment tonight, so I want you to stay tuned. And I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. It's Friday, the 17th of November, and we're streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow The One Mic Show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. Sports anchor Mika Och will be joining us via Zoom. Ruth is back in studio tonight, Pablo's favorite guest host, and our resident DJ Moshfire is live on the decks. And also not forgetting that our super producer is Mubelwa Bandio. And I want to start welcoming everybody who's already tuned in. I can see Slay Kamakawa yuko pale ndani. Karibu sana Slay. We welcome you. We welcome you. You know, and please tell us how the volume is. Slay was saying the volume is a bit low. Everybody else, tell us how you feel the volume on your side, or if Slay needs to increase her volume or maybe get new speakers. I can also see Angie Decadence in the building. Angie, karibu sana to The One Mic Show, long time fan.
Where's our cake?
And then yes, we are still waiting for that cake.
Hey.
And then I also see
you would have let me ask inside.
I also see Doreen Florence is in the building. So Doreen says she wants a parents edition, and we are gonna plan for a parents edition.
Wow.
As a follow-up to the episode that we had last week.
Yani, she wants us to bring the parents of the Nigerian and the Kenyan.
Yes.
And put them in the studio.
Yes.
And then we do a rebuttal.
Not a rebuttal.
Not a rebuttal.
A conversation.
It is
A conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, it's just
We
a
had
conversation.
one
Do you
with
people know
them.
African parents, or you just hear about them?
We will experience them then.
Yes.
Okay, me, I'll be outside the studio when you guys are doing that.
Can I DJ for you?
You can DJ that day.
Ruth, karibu sana. It's been a while since you are away.
Thank you for
Talk to
having
us.
me.
How have you been?
I've been good. I am fully recovered, so that's good. Just been busy with work, but I'm doing well. Can I say something?
Sure.
It was Slay's birthday this week.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Slay.
Is this the part where you sing for her?
I don't know how to sing, but I love her. I did tell her happy birthday.
Hey.
Okay.
Slay me, I will sing for you.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday to you.
Cha, cha, cha.
Happy birthday to you.
Cha, cha, cha.
Happy birthday, dear
Slay.
Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
Happy birthday, Slay. Happy birthday. Welcome and thank you so much for tuning in even during your birthday week. So Ruth, you know, like I was talking to you and asking you.
Yeah. That was so nice.
Oh.
On behalf of Slay, she did say thank you guys, but thank you. That was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sasa wacha kwanza tumkaribishe Mika. Mika Och, I don't know whether he's already live on air. Mika, karibu sana. Mika, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Mika. Asante sana, Mika.
Maybe you wanted to sing happy birthday to stay.
Kuna jamaa alikuwa amenimute hapa lakini.
Okay, Mika. Na Mika nilikuwa naona you were talking about, a story about floods that were happening in Kenya. I think specifically, it might have been in Mombasa.
At the airport?
There was the airport. There was the leak at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, and there was some floods, like
in
across
Mombasa,
the country.
the ocean.
Yeah.
You know the way people go to swim in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
The ocean decided to come to the people.
Wow.
Higher. Was it invited?
The other day the president said they prayed, and rain went. Was not El Nino was supposed to go, but then I think maombi lifika mahali mafuta ikaisha.
He
so
said what?
El Nino came back. And with El Nino coming back.
Yeah.
Let's just say, Ali, you come from the coast. You know how Mombasa drainage is, and
yes,
if you've been to Mombasa in the past few years, you've seen how overpopulated that city has become.
Yes,
and with the infrastructure that has been there, I don't think, the one thing with Kenya is that I don't think things like drainage infrastructures have been improved since colonial times, since the first planning
especially
and
the coast.
creation of these cities.
When you say drainage, are you saying like the ones that we see them digging before rainy season, or you're saying ongezari?
No, I think Mika is referring to the sewer system.
The
like
sewer
the
system,
whole,
the drainage
Understood.
system.
Yes,
the
whole
they're
drainage
supposed to
system.
be.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
it's not been
reaper
upgraded
rains,
since.
the reaper rains, and you're supposed to also leave. Basically, you're supposed, when you construct a road, you're supposed to leave a few meters for the water to flow. And usually, if you look at the construction, that is why you'll never find a flat road. They let the road flow. They let the road
Flow down,
go with how nature has designed that area, so that in case of rain, everything just flows symmetrically, and usually in some kind of way it will find itself in a river or in the ocean. So in Mombasa today, people it's rained for 3 days consecutively, and not just rain, manyunyu, heavy rains. And we saw that in some areas in Bamburi where actually people were swimming inside their houses and in the streets.
Yes.
That is, the water has risen to a point whereby it's in some places is door height, in some places is up to a 1.5 meters high. So El Nino is here, but the government not saying anything since they prayed El Nino went. Whatever this is, it's new. They don't know what to call it.
Did they actually say they prayed it away?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they did.
Look for a speech on Ruto. Look for a speech where Ruto said that. When Ruto said that they're predicting El Nino there's not going to be an El Nino, and then he made a comment that when we held a prayer session to pray against the rain, people laughed at us. But it seems like our prayers work. But then I guess it backfired.
Okay, all right. Mika, thank you so much for that update. This issue of floods, I remember a long time ago, we used to hear about Budalangi, but now this is coming to
Narok.
Yeah, but now this is coming to the cities. And of course, Mombasa has had that. Mombasa has two issues. It has the drainage issue, and then it has water issues. There are places that permanently, since my childhood, have not had running water. Like certain parts of Kisauni.
And Kisauni was one of the flooded areas.
Yes, it's one of the flooded areas. Yeah.
Kisauni was big time flooded.
So, and it's unfortunate that every new development that's being built, instead of maybe the government, the national or the county government, thinking about, like upgrading the drainage system and finding new water sources, every new building has a borehole, like especially these newer buildings, these new apartments they're building, they all have boreholes. And the problem with that is that the water table, when you have too many boreholes, it affects the natural water table. So there's certain boreholes that are dug, watu wanakutana na maji ya chumvi.
Correct.
Yes. There's certain boreholes that are dug and you kutana with maji ya chumvi because like there is some science behind how it works. Like I'm not a scientist, I don't know, but it's never a good idea to have like multiple boreholes within an area rather than have just a pump, like a proper like water supply.
Water supply, yeah.
There was supposed to be a desalination plant, and I don't know like how far that project went.
There's that, but also then another issue there is no problem with building and construction, but for some reason they build, but the same, I guess, drainage system is the same. So there's no expansion. There is no expansion of the drainage system. Like now, for example, if you're like now those places of those sides of Kileleshwa, Lavi, whatever. Right now it's overcrowded. So there are very many buildings that are coming up. The problem is all these people, system probably nail. And like Mika said, there has not been any adjustment, expansion of the drainage system.
And then even worse, places that are like in Nairobi West where I grew up, a compound, like maybe a half an acre, 1 acre compound that was one family, maybe a 5-6 person household, now ni gorofa
kabisa,
like,
umo.
Yes, so that same drainage that was serving 5-6 people is now supposed to serve 100 people or even more. Ruth,
I am just in shock.
what are you in shock about?
You guys don't have this problem in Machakos? I'm just asking for a friend.
Makweni.
Oh, sorry, Wote.
Yeah.
So, but it's fine. I actually I more identify with Machakos because I grew up in Machakos.
Also,
my
that's why I
my
said what I
parents
said.
just moved to Makueni.
Also, you're a city girl.
And so
Machakos is not a city.
It is a city.
Okay, sorry. I thought we only have 4 cities.
Violence.
Don't we only have 4 cities in
Outside of the
Nini?
city. So in that regard, I'm a
Officially,
city girl. But
yeah,
like,
it's a town.
Officially 3.
but-
It's 4.
Omosho unacheza na Mkamba.
Which one is the 4th one?
Nakuru.
Nakuru is not a city.
Okay, we'll find that out. Ruth.
Okay,
So-
Mika
Yeah.
will see you on the side, behind the tent.
so we
Hiyo
actually
ni yako hiyo. Gazetted cities are 3. Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa.
Aya, sawa.
I
Ruth.
don't know what he's saying. Gazetted cities for city. They just did this. Oh, sorry. Let's go back to Machakos.
no. So in Machakos we had a well and tap water, so like from the city.
Okay.
And then in Makueni, in the my parents have 2 places right now. So in the city one, they have tap water, of course, but then the one in Ocha, we actually did do a borehole.
You dug a
Okay.
borehole.
And I'll say that because there is no, and we did everything. So we did the borehole, we did the biodigester,
Yes.
because there is no drainage there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to do that ourselves. And I can only imagine, because it's a very new, it's a developing place.
Yeah.
Ton of the county government people are kind of buying land around the same place. So soon we'll have all of those things. Everybody having their own borehole, probably their own drainage.
Yep, and biodigesters and stuff.
So I can see that being an issue down the line. I confess to that. But then let's talk about this El Nino thing. I'm actually very, very surprised that it was sprayed away. Well, it is a weather pattern that's been predicted, and we know it will happen. It's funny that it was sprayed away because I know one of the things my parents have a farm, so we're talking about, and we actually did this before the rain started, creating, because we knew to the El Nino is going to be a lot of rain, a lot of water. That's unnecessary, honestly. So we actually had to create drainage to
channels
to divert the water from the farm. So I'm wondering if I have people on the ground actually trying to do something about preparing for, more than normal rains. Why is it being prayed away?
So just like Christopher Columbus when he came here and he told the natives, I'm telling you, you're going to see that my God is powerful, and in 2 weeks, you're going to see the sky is going to turn red. And you know what that was? The moon. The blood moon.
Yeah.
Well, the Jesus kasema pole, we shall obey you and whatever, and give you the supplies that you need.
You know,
But-
the sad
sorry,
thing is
carry on.
that despite everything, when they say that they were getting prepared for the El Nino, and we saw Governor Sakajo actually say that he's going to buy boats, and people laughed at that idea, laughed at him. But I thought it was a good idea because if you look at the situation in Mombasa right now, if they had lifeboats they will have saved a lot of people. Right now, the death toll they're saying is between 1 and 2, but the boats could have acted well in evacuation. But now my thought process is this. Our electricity in that country will depend on geothermal and the 7 fork dams, right? 3 of the dams have been operating below capacity because they didn't have any water in the reservoirs. This is a chance whereby they should have thought of ways of harvesting that water. We saw California went through drought for like, was it 3 years in a row? And once last year they were getting excessive rain, they captured the rainwater.
They harvested
now
it.
they harvested it and they have it, and they're confident that they're not going to suffer any more drought in the next coming years. This is what the government should have been thinking about, because right before this El Nino, last year we were complaining that there was going to be starvation because there was the locusts, which were migrating all over the world. And then last year, Kenya went through drought. There was no rain. So this year we have excessive rain. It's just going to cause devastation and damage. And then after, by January, when the sun comes, the rainy season is over, we will say again we have no water. Electricity distribution will go low, food distribution will go low, and we'll go back to the same cycle. So it's an adversity, but how are we taking advantage of it right now? How prepared were we for this El Nino that was being spoken about way before the rainy season was predicted? Months ago, they knew that El Nino was coming. How are we getting ready for it? That's the question that people should be asking right now. And we don't even hear the government talking about it. They say they were El Nino. Most counties say they've put aside money for the El Nino, but we're not seeing anything. Today it was Mombasa. Early on in the week, it was in the northeastern part of Kenya, in Wajir. Those dry areas actually were having floods, and people lost lives. So you're left here wondering, what is the game plan? Where all this preparedness they were saying they were ready for, are we just going to see a loss of life, destruction of property? We are seeing in Nairobi, estates are crumbling. Peponi estate was crumbling because it's built next to a riverine, and somebody was constructing new buildings there. But because of the rain, the soil is loose. A whole estate is really crumbling and falling in. We have buildings sinking in Nairobi. Buildings are sinking. Like people wake up in the morning and they find their buildings have sunk inside the ground because of the excessive rain. And as Aliyah said, it's that digging of too many boreholes, poor planning, and I honestly, I'm left here wondering what are we going to see after the end of these rains, and then how are we going to recover after the end of these rains?
Wow, that is so profound what you've just said, Mika, and unfortunately, climate is one of those very difficult to understand things for the regular person. So you can't even say let's punish the politicians who are not advocating for the right climate policy. It's ironical that the Global Climate Summit was in Kenya just was it a few months or just a few weeks ago? It's ironical that such a big summit is in Kenya, but it seems like we don't have a proper plan. I think one of the plans that we are going to make next year is to get, a climate expert just to talk to us about what possible impact, ignoring, these climate patterns that we are seeing may have, because we're already seeing them. You were seeing people swimming inside homes in Kisauni. We are seeing those homes sinking in Peponi. All the signs, they're glaring, they're everywhere, but it doesn't seem like there's any sense of urgency to address this. So this is something that we're going to keep talking about, and I want to welcome all the other guests who are just joining us in. I can see Tabitha and Jerry. Tabitha, karibu sana. Thank you so much for tuning in to the One Mic Show. And then I can see here Slay is talking about global warming and saying that water table reminds me of geography. And I think this is one of the tragedies with our education system. people are gonna remember that we learnt about a water table in geography, but people will not be able to put it to context. You know, like even when, for example, like there's references of water tables and digging of boreholes and what it might do and what the impact might be. Actually, John Alanamu on African Uncensored has a very, very good documentary done specifically on Nairobi and the politics of water and the possible impact of what might happen. So anyone who's interested, Mike, if you get a chance, you know, like just find that that documentary and post it on the comments. And then, you know, of course, here there's people who are arguing whether Nakuru is a city or not. I think it has been established.
It's an incorporated city, but it's
city.
not gazetted. So Mika is actually right.
Okay.
As crazy as it sounds. So
All
it was put in and nominated to be a city, but it's incorporated. However, it's not gazetted. Officially, there's only 3 gazetted cities: Nairobi, Kisumu, and Mombasa.
Okay, that's something that we're gonna try to
Very
figure out,
interesting.
and whether being gazetted or nominated as a city inaongeza pesa mfukoni. We are gonna figure that out later.
Gazetted inaongeza, nominated haiongezi, unapata bado budget ya a town.
Okay. Aya, sawa. So hapa Stephen JJ, Kaiser Soze, Afro-Jamaican, and Sleodwar were, you know, like talking about that part. And Afro-Jamaican says Nakuru is a city and Ruto did pray it away. And then...
Pray it away or pray it in?
No, I think
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so Stephen JJ says as of 2021, Uhunye elevated it from a town to a city. Okay, so wow, so I see this is very important to a lot of people. And Pablo, karibu sana to the
kuna watu wa Nax hapo ndio kwa sababu nasikia wakisema gruma.
Yeah, and I knew Pablo would show up, you know, like when Ruth is in town. So Pablo, karibu
so, but
sana.
how did you know? Because we didn't say Ruth was coming into the show. How did you know Ruth was going to show up?
I don't know.
Oh, so normally
I don't know.
at 8:02 he has his head inside. Then if he doesn't see, then he pulls back.
Then he pulls out.
He has a seventh sense. Like
he has a Ruth meter.
It's like that one.
Yeah.
Can you just move on?
And then Winnie Bukachi pia karibu sana. And then Pablo says the problem with Kenya is corruption. This has bred poor planning, illegal structures. We can only blame weather patterns so much. So I think, you know, this is a topic that next year we'll try to commit to get a climate expert to try to simplify this for most people to understand, because climate is one of those subjects that you know, like not quite clear to most people.
I think we need an urban planner also.
I have someone.
Okay.
She is on
You know,
Twitter.
we actually had True Planet. There's a day we had 2 Planet experts on the show the same day.
Huh?
Planet experts.
Yeah, environmentalists. Remember, what's his name? Gicho, the lady who was traveling the whole world.
Oh,
and
yes. One boy,
yes.
Gichobi, yeah.
Yeah, and then the what's the name of the guy who was also with him? And they met at the show. They were like, wait, they knew each other, but they didn't know that they were both coming to the same show.
Okay. Now, we've also hosted Ikal Angelei before, you know, like a well-known environmental activist. You know, the time when she brought the team that was at the Turkana Power Project. So Ikal is also another expert that we can tap in. But Ruth, you're saying that you know someone.
Yeah, I know someone, and I follow her on Twitter. And today, actually, one of our posts was our Joho did not really work on the drainage system in Mombasa. She is based in DC. So I think we should be able to tap into her.
Okay, all right. Yeah. You know, like we're gonna get, you know, like in touch with all of them. And
I will call her.
Yes.
Call.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So the other thing before we forget, you know, like there were service charges that were released by the government. So maybe let me start with Mika on those service charges, and I think also Ruth has been reviewing them. You know, like they were released, you know, like they were reduced, they were rescinded, a lot of confusion. So Mika, please talk to us. What service charges were these, and what exactly is happening, and what do people need to know? Mika.
Okay, Ali, thank you. So the thing that happened here is that on the 7th of this month, there was a release of the special issue Kenyan Gazette that was that had the new prices that had been set up by the government for service delivery charges to the citizens of Kenya. And among one of those controversial things that were put in place was that the first-time application ID prices rose from 100 shillings going up to 2,000, up to 1,000 shillings. And then renewal of replacement of an ID moved from 100 shillings again and went up to 2,000 shillings. The passport prices also went up, and the passport issuance prices went up. Another one that was pretty controversial was the visa prices, especially visa prices for
the business visa.
The business visa and visa prices for diasporans returning with their children. Another thing was the registering of diasporan children born to diasporans.
Yeah.
So basically, Omosh Sayuki Amokupataka Junior, you were supposed to pay at least 2,000. I think it was coming to $2,000. $2,000. It was totaling up to 1 million Kenyan shillings in getting in registering
1.2.
Your child. Yeah. Marriage certificates went up to 50,000 Kenyan shillings.
But surely, how do you start a home?
I think registration of lawful residency went from 200,000 to 1 million Kenyan shillings. Registration of Kenyan children went from 20,000 Kenyan shillings to 100. It went to 1 million shillings, and then it has been reduced to 100,000 Kenyan shillings. So after an uproar by the citizens of Kenya, and especially on social media, both on social media and just in discussions in radios and other media forums, on this one happened on the 14th of November. Another special gazette was issued, and this one was actually debuted by none other than Mr. Dennis Ole Itumbi, and he said that pending public participation, the government listens to Kenya and has reduced and revoked. Yeah, he said the Gazette notice published last week has been revoked. New rates have been published for public participation. So the first-time ID application prices dropped from the shillings 1,000 they were proposing to shillings 300. And then they will say that applicants who demonstrate inability to pay were to be granted waivers. ID replacement fees went from shillings 2,000, which had been proposed, to shillings 1,000. And he insisted that there will be digital IDs that will be unveiled in December this year. So technically, if you lose your ID and you want to renew your ID right now, you will get the new government offered digital IDs. You will not need to carry a copy of your ID. So I don't know if you carry it on your phone or where you carry it, but because the smartphone coverage in Kenya is not that huge enough where you can tell everybody to have a digital ID. And then we had regaining citizen fees that were revised to 50,000 Kenyan shillings. The declaration of dual citizenship went to 10,000 Kenyan shillings. Endorsement of a non-Kenyan passport went to Kenya shillings 10,000. And then let me see, citizenship went to 1 million. Citizenship registration for lawful residency went to 1 million Kenyan shillings. Registration of children they revised it from 1 million Kenyan shillings and reduced it to 100,000 Kenyan shillings. And then stateless persons, refugees to be registered to become Kenyan citizens was reduced again from 100,000 Kenyan shillings to 10,000 Kenyan shillings. Registration of citizenship by migrants was again pegged at 10,000 Kenyan shillings. And
Okay.
I'm trying to look for the passport I have. e-citizen.
Passport is. Go ahead.
E-citizen.
Yeah, e-citizen. Where was it?
No.
Actually, I think I messed up my numbers. So the lawful residents with spouses and children actually is 50,000 Kenya. 50,000 Kenya shillings. It's 50,000 Kenya shillings. And then for the whole family, which usually was 500,000, is now 750,000 Kenya shillings.
Okay.
If you marry somebody who's not a Kenyan and you want them to become Kenyans, you will have to pay 50,000 Kenya shillings for them. That is together with an issuance fee. So the issuance fee is 150,000 Kenya shillings. So you will have to pay 200,000 Kenya shillings to register them. Visas prices also went up. A single entry visa moved from $50 to $100. 5-year multiple entry visa went from $100 to $500. Extension of visa after 6 months. After 6 months, which was free, became $200. Referral or multiple entry visa processing fee went from $10 to $100. Transit visas went from $20 to $50. East African tourist visa remained at $100. That one didn't change. An ETA, also known as an electronic travel authorization, that is for countries that are transiting through Kenya, which we didn't have that. Now it's being charged at $30, like it is in Europe. Passport fees, diplomatic passports rose from 7,500 to 50,000 Kenya shillings. Ordinary passport, 34 pages, went from 4,500 Kenya shillings to 7,500 Kenya shillings. 50-page passport went from 6,000 to 9,500. A 66-page went from 7,500 to 12,500 Kenya shillings.
Okay.
The temporary permit that you use to travel in East Africa went from or traveling home when you've lost your passport, went from 300 Kenya shillings to 1,000 Kenyan shillings. So basically, we can see there was still some increase in the fee, and the Gazette also have a lot of other fees which I'm not going to touch on because it's going to take a lot of time.
Okay.
But we can say that the original Gazette had an increase of around between 200 to 400%. This revision of theirs seems to have an increase of between 100 to 300%.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mika, for that
Ushuru ilipwe.
detailed analysis.
That's not Ushuru.
But you know,
Whatever it is.
I'm slowly starting to have a theory.
Yes.
And there's
Theorize away, my friend.
And there's a certain pattern that this government follows whenever they're doing anything. And I don't know whether they don't realize that people can see this. I don't know how foolish they think people are. The pattern they have is that, for example, if they want to, let's say, grab 1,000 shillings from you, so what they're gonna do, they're gonna quickly grab 5,000 shillings, and then when you complain that why are you grabbing 5,000 shillings from me, they'll say, okay, let's do public participation. Then after public participation, they'll say we've reduced the 5,000 shillings we grabbed to 3,000 when this money wasn't theirs in the first place. So they have this pattern where they throw something out, that they know the public is gonna see. Then there's uproar. Then they're gonna use those new numbers as the anchors. And then they'll get, like their spin masters like Dennis Itumbi to say that the government, take for example ID, from 100 shillings to 1,000 shillings, and they're now coming back saying that we've reduced it from 1,000 shillings to 300 shillings when you've actually tripled the original price.
Yes.
And this is ridiculous. The 50,000 shilling for marriage certificate, we live in a country where people make 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 shillings a month.
In fact, if you find somebody making 30, they are above the mean.
Yeah, and then now you're asking people to pay 50,000 shillings for a marriage certificate. At that point,
and we all do the traditional thing where people go and give. By the time you've done all of that, utaenda kanisani surely.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Ruth?
I think my biggest reaction to what you just said is maybe they've decided to do public participation by going to social media, by gazetting things instead of actually before you gazette anything, I think you're supposed to actually do the public participation tour,
Yeah.
talk
Yes.
to people, have people's input, come up with numbers, go back and see if people are okay with that before you come and gazette it. But it feels like gazetting it is the public participation for the government. And may I
Yes.
say, I don't think
It's a
just
trial period between now and December when they make it official.
I guess. But thing is not only I don't think it's only this government. I think governments before have done the same thing. Not Kibaki government, but at least Uhuru government
No.
does the same thing.
What this government, so Uhuru's government would just do stuff. They'd say we're increasing this and they increase it.
Okay.
But this government, like they have this need to be in good books in public opinion. So they do these ridiculous things, and they did the same thing with I think the housing levies and all these other levies. They throw a ridiculous number, and then they say, okay, maybe they write a draft law, then they throw it out to the public. Then APRO media talks about it. So someone needs to do something about this, because
I feel they're
I think
actually doing that now to call that public participation.
the problem, they've been using public participation to say that this is what the public said, when in essence, right now we don't have a proper public participation law. Because what exactly is public participation? Is it calling people to KICC or calling people at Jivanji Gardens? Is that public participation? Because remember, there's 47 counties. There's 291 constituencies.
Yeah.
There's, I think, over 2,000 wards. What exactly is public participation? Is it calling people at KICC Nairobi when people in Wargadu don't know what's going on? So there has to be a standard,
Yeah.
for
every
to
county.
what public participation is
Yeah.
across the country.
Yeah.
Because they will say, oh yes, there was, and I've seen, some of those public participation sessions in Mombasa, whereby, people are called to a hall, and then it's usually very chaotic. And then there's apparently people who are taking notes on what people are saying. And then there's no clarity in what's presented.
We don't have a procedure that is communicated.
Yes, there's nothing, trackable or verifiable to say that this is what the people said.
What was interesting, that same guy, Dennis Itumbi, had posted something at maswali yangu, maswali yako, majibu yangu, whatever. So Baba Lawrence,
Baba Rehema.
Baba Rehema,
Yeah.
says, Dennis Itumbi, instead of posting irrelevancy daily to divert attention, why not post a tax expenditure report for the past 6 months? This regime is taxing Kenyans to death and nothing to show for it. Where is the money going? So he posts.
The funny thing, one mic, let me cut you off. You finish your statement. To reiterate that, the funny thing is that the things that they taxed, that they actually increased taxes on the first, which was alcohol and fuel, which were the highest consumed commodities in Kenya, actually became the lowest consumed commodity in the past quarter. And the one mic.
But interesting, piggybacking on what Mika said, this is where we bring economics in. There's something called the Laffer curve, and we've talked about it. It's a very basic concept. It's like gravity in physics. Gravity in physics, where if an apple, goes down, it will go down. It's not gonna go up. So it's the same concept with the Laffer curve. Whenever you increase taxes up to a certain point, the overall amount of taxes you're gonna collect is gonna be less. Because think about it, if you're being taxed at 100%, you're definitely not gonna go do that job. But if this tax keeps being reduced, at a certain point, there are certain people who are gonna go. So there's a sweet spot where the tax collector can get the maximum amount of revenues from the tax collection. But with what they're doing, it's very obvious they're gonna collect less taxes, and I think that's why economists like David Ndii are getting restless in in this government, and they're busy now fighting with people on Twitter, because I think whatever policies they're giving is not being listened to. But Mike, endelea.
So his response to his post was, Lawrence Kihanya, my friend, nothing stops you from doing that and inviting us to discuss on your space. Hapa FB asks me, what is on your mind, Dennis, not Lawrence? That was his answer to a simple,
Wow.
a simple
Yeah.
question.
And that's a government that's a government employee.
And and then there was just today, I think Baba Rehema posted something pertaining to him, Dennis Itumbi, and the government blaming he says the other day you blamed the US Federal Reserve for the high cost of fuel in Kenya. He's still coming to terms with that. Baba Rehema, that is.
And remember, cost of fuel has been going down in the US,
Yes.
but it's not been going down in
Here's
Kenya.
another thing
The
that
cost of fuel has gone down the whole world.
The whole
Only
world.
Kenya is where it's raising.
And here's another kicker. And of course, if you listen to Spice, they were throwing out numbers that there has been a reduction in fuel consumption in Kenya.
Laffer Curve effect.
People
Of
have
course,
said, you know what,
people
let
stop-
me walk.
people
Guys are not-
not
yeah, guys
only
are-
walk,
They're taking to public transportation.
Yeah.
They're
And
not
carpooling.
driving their
Public
cars
transportation.
anymore.
And carpooling.
Yeah.
and they'll stop traveling altogether.
Yes.
And
Go
you know,
see
you know,
family
you
and
know,
things
the
like
interesting thing is
But
that
then, you
once
know-
people learn about carpooling and walking and using public transport, guess what? They're never gonna go back to the old way of doing things, even when the prices go down.
Yes.
So that's what the government is also not necessarily paying attention to. Mika,
Or
you were
probably
saying
that's
something.
what they want.
No, man, I was saying that, you know, I've never had a place whereby the consumption of alcohol has gone down. Never in any country, never. Even during COVID, it went higher.
Well, for
When,
COVID, it was
like,
different. People are stuck at home.
But then the funny thing is, like, right now it has gone down, and so I wanted to ask you, Ali, as an economist or somebody
Yes.
who works in finance, what is the best strategy? Overtaxing the little resources you can tax, or creating new tax opportunities?
No, it's very. This is a very basic question in economics that any economics 101 student will tell you. You know, like whenever if you keep increasing taxes, at a certain point, based on the Laffer Curve effect, you're gonna start collecting less taxes. So what governments try to do is get to a sweet spot whereby you not only are collecting the maximum revenue from the people who are earning, but at the same time, you're also increasing the base of people who are earning. Because when you overtax people, what that means is also that their disposable income is less. So maybe you are earning 50,000 and you are getting taxed 20,000. So you had only 30,000 disposable income. But now from that 50,000, they're taking an extra 5,000. So now your new disposable income is no longer 30,000, it's 25,000. So that means there's something that you're cutting off from your expenditure. Whatever you're cutting off from your expenditure is costing someone employment. So that employee base is also shrinking. The amount of taxes is shrinking, and the amount of people who are actually paying those taxes is also shrinking. Ruth.
Okay. I wanted to say something. Disposable income.
Disposable income.
Yeah.
So disposable income, and sorry for using
No,
economic
actually,
jargon.
I wanted
Yeah.
to correct your definition of it.
Disposable income is what actually you have in your pocket.
Is it not what you have
spend.
after you've paid your obligations?
Disposable income.
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
But I think in the context of what Ali
So-
is saying
so-
is that
okay.
that's the money you can spend,
So in
period.
the context I'm
dispose of
talking,
it.
You can dispose of it. You can pay rent. You can pay, you can pay for your car. You can pay for whatever. So disposable income. So there's gross income,
Yes.
and then
Then there's net income.
we also have net income,
Then
and then
disposable.
within that net income,
Yeah.
there's also some other deductions that sometimes may be taken away. But disposable income
It's after your rent.
is the money that you have in your pocket. So here's the thing. It could be after your rent, but you see, rent is also a choice you're making to spend.
To pay.
There are
Yep.
people. It's a choice you're making to pay.
Rent is a choice. Housing is a choice.
So
Okay,
it's a
sorry, I
choice.
kind of went there.
Yeah, you can
So
become
it's a choice.
responsible
For some
and
people,
decide
yeah.
you're not
It's
paying
a
rent
choice
and you leave.
because it's a choice because you can. There's some people who can go back and live in daddy and mommy's house.
And they're not
rent
paying.
free, and they're not paying rent.
So
But that's not the majority of people who do that.
but
But it does happen.
just to
Tomato.
get technical,
But it does happen.
Tomato,
though.
tomato.
But it does
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I know.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, and then there's some people who, you know, like there's some people who have to pay for food, and there's some people who can go get free food somewhere. So for simplicity, disposable
Minimum, I
income
guess.
is the money that you get, because tax is
You can
what,
go to a soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Instead of going to buy food at
Come
whatever.
on.
so
But
tax.
people have done that.
Yeah,
Seriously.
so just for definition, not to confuse people.
Okay.
So essentially, you know, like tax is one of those things that you don't have a choice. You know, like when you earn, you know, like the government has to take, you know, like
Ushuru lazima.
like a certain cut.
Yes.
And then there's all these other things that now you can spend
And-
with the money that you have.
Yes.
And in Kenya,
Yeah.
hiyo housing fund watu wanakatwa.
Yeah.
NHIF wanakatwa.
So all those are taxes.
And
All
SSF.
those.
Yeah, whatever they
even that
call
one.
them, whatever they want to call them, a
Yes.
fund, those are taxes.
I was talking to my
Can
kuzo
I-
on the
oh,
ground.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Before you read your comment, before you read the comments, I was talking to my kuzo and he was telling me he is, one, it's regret. Two, his salo has shookered by about 6K.
That's a lot.
6K.
That is a lot.
And this is one of those guys we're talking about in that range of 20, 35 hapo. Ako hapo katikati,
So
but
now
imeshuka,
now if you had a KYM, that person is fired.
boss.
Because that's the 6K.
Yes.
That the KYM was getting 6K. I think it's 6,500. Isn't that what's supposed to be minimum wage for KYMs?
75?
Maybe.
65. It could be 70.
Yeah. But I'm saying
So
that at that point, house help gone.
Yes.
Watois wajipange na wasiende kwa nini. Don't play with matches, don't go by the gas. We'll see you when we see you when we come
Na
back.
sasa kuna shida ya gari. So even like,
Unajua
for even getting
shopping ya food ya kwa familia ya mwezi.
I know. Guys, okay.
Hey,
Let
Mika, I hata hiyo even if you go to those chaps of wholesale, your 6K is not the math is not
No,
mathing.
like ukiangalia like just the way most people living in back home, right?
Correct.
Why wacha wewe mtu akununua masausage na nini for breakfast kama nini? Right?
Okay.
Let's just say kawaida most families kawaida they will go
Cool kids,
siaga
cool
unga
kids.
gorogoro,
Surely.
atabai
Because as again,
atabai unga, atabai maragwe, atabai
Yes.
like dry stuff.
Correct.
Right?
Mchele.
And then they will
Yes,
buy
mafuta.
the little they will buy mafuta kile kikubwa, like what they'll just be doing is supplementing what they bought
Yeah.
with
Oh,
kidogo
okay.
kidogo ya nyama
With-
here, sukuma
with-
here, our omena here, and it- but most of the
Yeah.
Dry
of the
foods.
of the basic essentials that 6K covers for them and allows them to survive through the month wakiongeza kidogo ndogo juu.
okay.
And majority of Kenyans don't eat sausage kaa wewe for breakfast.
Okay, so before Ruth reads the comments, I just want to give, you know, like,
This
you know,
guy.
for sake of clarity, disposable income. This is Google Bird's definition. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence later on, so I want you to stay tuned.
Google nani?
Google Bird. It's the chat GPT for Google.
Google
Uh,
bird.
Yeah,
With
Bird.
a roar?
Yeah.
BARD.
Yeah. So
Say
it
it louder
says-
with a roar.
So it says disposable income is the amount of money that individuals or households have available to spend or save after they have paid all their taxes and other mandatory payments. It is calculated by subtracting personal income taxes, social security contributions, and other current taxes from gross income. So that's what disposable income is. Ruth, you can proceed to read the comments.
Housing is mandatory.
How is it a tax?
Housing is a choice.
Anyway.
You can decide to live in
You
your
can,
car.
you, can, you can be
Absolutely.
homeless.
Yeah, you can
Not.
live in your car.
You can be homeless. Go to San
guess.
Francisco.
Oh, that's why it's mandatory for me.
Oh yeah. So
'Cause I don't wanna live in a
Because you
car.
don't want to
Because
be in
you
San
use-
Francisco
So,
or you don't
so
want
my
to be in a car.
disposable income is after
yeah.
For
my
you.
obligation.
So it's your
so
choice.
comments.
Okay, let's go to
Yeah.
the comments.
You're
Okay.
housing your choice.
Let's go. We are referencing, some of the comments are referencing the new fees that that we were talking about. So Doreen says you have to be really serious to start a home. Ati marriage certificate is 50K. Then Humphrey says, can we stay wax? No, or customary marriage basi. What TF? What were they smoking? That's Kaiser.
Soze. Yes.
Kaiser Soze. And then Slay, someone had their eyes closed and was just calling out whatever figures they had in mind. I agree, because some of these numbers, this is crazy. Doreen, Humphrey, sasa afadhali situationship ama it's complicated scenarios aki Kenyans slate traditional wedding is just fine. True. Then but cost of oil has gone down. It's worldwide, but just in Kenya, only in Kenya it has gone up. Steven, Kenya fake alcohol ndio inatembea. Watu wanakunywa ethanol. Oh my word. Slay, how is it a choice? I know, right? I think Ruth is right. This is Doreen. After obligations have been met, then Steven says some people own houses. You pay mortgage, you pay taxes. So
Some people inherited.
they pay taxes.
Yeah, taxes are
Yeah,
mandatory.
Yeah.
You pay
Yeah,
rent.
pay.
and-
taxes are
yeah.
mandatory.
So we're talking
Rent is
about
not.
You can choose not to live in the
yes.
house.
Yeah.
But
But you still have to pay the taxes.
by
You still
your-
have to pay the property taxes.
by your own definition, you can choose not to.
No, this is actually not my definition. This is an economics
This is
definition.
bird, it's bird. Achunapacho says Kenyans are choosing to go the keg way because alcohol prices are out of reach. Google, what is Google BARD? Disposable income dictates consumer spending. That's true. Drew Kimani, food, shelter, clothing, basic. Can I say something?
Sure.
Yes.
This is extremely controversial. Don't come for me. I love you all when I say this, but like Kenyans need to like stop drinking as much as they do.
What? But they just reduced their consumption.
I'm
Okay.
just saying, maybe that is what was needed
And then Slay hapa anasema
for their health.
yeah, Slay anasema na hii kizungu ya changes, ebu sema mandatory one more time.
Mandatory.
It's mandatory. Yeah.
Ruth,
There's a
Kenyans
certain
need
cadence.
to stop drinking. Not Kenyans alone. People need to stop drinking. But the day when people stop indulging in drinking, and
I did not
just
say stop.
stay
I said
sober.
they need to reduce.
trust me, most of the governments will be out of drinking, sports, and all
Betting.
this going out, branch, entertainment is a distraction of you not to see how your government really messes you up. When you have all that time to sit and think and recognize and look at stuff. That is why during the pandemic, alcohol was considered an essential commodity and was supplied everywhere in the world.
You know, they changed the laws to make alcohol like you can ship it to a house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
some states
because
actually
once
did that.
once people
How did you find out?
My
imagine
friend works
imagine
for
if
Toto
all of us
Wanyama.
were just sober and we could be watching at the news sober and we are seeing everything sober as it is.
Well, that's why it's
Yeah.
good sisi tumeharamishiwa pombe. So that's
So are you
That's a
saying that
problem.
if
That's a
are you
problem,
saying
yeah.
if you got a Total Wine package, you'll tell it to go back?
oh, of course. I'll go back very fast.
Alhamdulillah, you're lying.
And that guy, wait, the guy who owns Total Wine and more, I think is a guy who's running for.
He is
Yes.
actually.
Yes.
That's the
He's
guy,
running. He's
Yes.
running for
Yeah.
Senate in the state of
Yeah.
Maryland.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
because he's already,
Yes.
isn't he already in?
Oh my word.
No, he's already in Congress.
He's already in Congress.
He's already in Congress,
But
and
he's running for Senate. Okay.
So it's
okay.
gonna be very easy for me not to vote for him. Vote Angela Also
Because
Brooks.
he's haram.
Yeah, he's haram. Vote for Angela Also Brooks. But we're going to get Annette in studio to talk about that. I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. We are here talking on the government backtracking on previous increase of service charges. And on panel tonight is Mr. One Mic. I have DJ Moshfire, sports anchor Mika Och, and of course, guest host Ruth Kilungu. Now, later on the show, we'll talk about new age social media censorship, also known as shadow banning. I know some of you have been shadow banned at some point, so please stay tuned for that and tell us if you've ever noticed that you've been shadow banned. Our lines are open. The number to call is 202-683-4570. You want to press *5 to speak, so please make use of that number and call. The hit or miss segment by DJ Moshfire is back. And before we continue, DJ Moshfire, please briefly tell the audience what to expect tonight and maybe why we had taken a brief hiatus on this segment. DJ Mosh.
Thank you, Ali. One Mic. Mika. Ruth. So the hit or miss segment is back tonight. We'll see how it goes. Because basically the bottom line of it is there are some chaps called censors who have been censoring the two out of us, which means we'll play music and they
It will
cut
be
it
muted,
and
yeah.
it will be muted, and the show would have, when we go back to replay, the show would have segments where we played music as being muted.
Yes.
And so what we had to do was kind of try to find or figure out a way to go around that. And we're still working on it, but we're going to try it today and see how it works out. But the whole point of it is that we can't do it in between the show.
Yes.
And so what would also happen is that you're either going to get muted or you kind of get kicked out. So our live feeds stop.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you
Yeah.
pretty much you lose your audience. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of like get them back.
Yeah, and then also with YouTube, it's even worse because YouTube they Malaysia the live stream. You know, like if you have copyrighted content, you will go back to try and look for the live stream, and it will be Malaysian. You know, like you will not find it.
So
it will be
Oh
gone.
my word!
Yeah.
Did you actually have to use that word?
I mean, it's just,
I mean,
just-
you-
I
just-
cannot make a joke about that ever.
No, I mean but the flight disappeared. It
I
disappeared
know,
and we
but
never
like that
found.
is sad.
Eh?
You know, there's a song.
There is a song.
Yes, Malaysia. Kikoyo, of course.
Oh, never mind. It's this one. I thought it was like a pop star who sang about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
pop.
Kikuyu-
The guy's a Kikuyu
a
pop star.
Kikuyu
It's
pop
a
star.
Kikuyu pop
I
star.
mean-
Funny Kikuyus can't be pop
Yes.
stars.
No, apparently we can't.
I apologize.
Yeah, apology
You're
not
there.
accepted.
Yeah.
Sure there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Magadeni agashawo.
So this has
Wait,
been
what?
Never mind. Carry on.
so the music part has been a challenge, and we are trying to find a long-term solution.
A sweet spot.
You know, like
the
for
lofa curve.
Yeah.
The lofa curve for music.
Lafa, not lofa.
La
Lafa, lafa.
with the lafa curve for
Yeah.
music is coming.
Yeah.
So we're working on that, and stay tuned. I think you guys might like it, but it's going to be towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
So stick around, and you might learn something.
Yeah, and maybe DJ Tucha, you can give us some solutions, because we do see, like some DJs who post their videos, like their mixes on YouTube, and we don't know exactly how they do that. And then there's other platforms.
When they do
if
it,
we have to join other
when they're
platforms.
doing it live, that sucker is good. Once it's over, even then they'll tell you, boss, it's a hit. It's either you'll see it or you won't.
But like DJ Shinsky,
It's a hit
for
or
example,
miss.
Shinsky, for
even
example, has
Shinsky will tell you that
Okay.
in his mixes.
Okay.
If you talk to him, he will. If he even when he posts, he's like, "Hey, go now, look for it, because there's no guarantee it's gonna be there." That's basically what he adds to the thing.
Okay. Yeah.
So when on Fridays he's doing it, be there with him live. When it's live, hey,
when it's live, it's live.
It's live. It's on.
Should we do that with a one mic show? You have to catch us live. You either catch us or you don't.
No.
Catch us if you can.
No, then the algorithm is gonna be screwed up.
Yeah,
we'll be in Malaysia looking for the algorithm.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on from that topic. I want us to go to I want us to go to something different. Now South Africa Member of Parliament and EFF leader Julius Malema was in Kenya recently, actually in Makueni County in Kenya.
I saw.
Yeah,
Just one day.
Yes, so that was quite interesting, and he was invited to the new Pan-African Institute by PLO Lumumba. A couple of speeches were given in the event, and then Malema was a guest of honor, so he was given the mic, and to Malema's style, he took no prisoners. He had some very sharp words against President Ruto while he was in Kenya. Mike, like you've been, going through, like some of the things Malema said. Talk to us. Tell us, like what this was about.
Ideally, what this was about was Ruto not keeping
Promises.
promises.
Yes.
He considered him to be a Pan-Africanist because of what he was pitching. Like now, instead of using the dollar or whatever, use our own currency. Visas, making it visa-free.
Borderless, yeah.
Borderless.
He said Ruto said by December.
By December.
Yeah.
Mpaka Malema said maybe he'll try and test the system by December.
By
I will
just
come. I'll just show up
unannounced.
I'll just show up unannounced.
Kwanza him, he's been banned by now. But anyway.
Then he equated that, and then talking about this, and then he welcomes a colonizer, the person who was whose people beat the Mau Mau.
You mean King Charles III?
Well, yeah, he didn't really say his name, but we put out a red carpet.
Okay.
So it was up to you to deduce who he was talking about. Of course, who we know. And he also said that he has been trying to find this guy, look for him. So I don't know if he literally has. So ideally, that was it. So the promises that Ruto made are not what he has kept.
Is not what he's doing right
And
now.
Or
that-
what he has seen on the ground.
That one too. So and that is his main issue. So he was saying if you're a Pan-Africanist, be a Pan-Africanist all the way. You can't be wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't be here or there.
You can't be
Yeah.
here, there, hot
Yeah.
or cold or whatever. You can't be saying you're Pan-Africanist, but then you are canoodling and oogling and whatever and socializing and fraternizing
Are
with
you
the colonizer.
saying, is that the same as saying pro-Israeli and then you go to the Arabs to ask for stuff and now you're switching?
That.
Now, he also actually mentioned
He
about,
actually-
like Ruto's pro-Israel stance. Talk to
Yes.
us about
So he also mentioned that,
Yeah.
and he said, how can you be that when the Mau Mau themselves were in the same position as the Palestinians are
Absolutely.
Yeah.
currently,
Mhm.
and how the South Africans were during apartheid, and where Nelson Mandela, who himself, and I think you mentioned that Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu were
Yes.
actually pro-Palestinian,
Mhm.
pro-Palestine,
Yeah.
and you cannot, you have to take a
No,
stand.
not only were they pro-Palestine, I think they described, like
As
Palestine
apartheid.
as an open-air prison,
Yes.
and Israel as an apartheid state.
Yes.
That's very powerful.
That was very
coming
powerful
from those figures.
Yes. So Malema was pushing that, and talking about in fact he was talking about how the ICC, it was a very interesting speech, how the ICC itself can put out a warrant for Putin, but cannot put out a warrant for
For Netanyahu.
Netanyahu, who
Yeah.
has bombed
Yet he's engaged
in
war crimes.
in war crimes,
Yeah.
bombing hospitals, trying to annihilate or cleanse ethnically cleanse a people. So that was the speech, and he went hard at Ruto.
He went for the jugular.
Kabisa.
And he was
did.
sitting in Ruto's backyard, basically.
I know.
Yes.
So I watched this speech with my friend. She's African American, and I did tell her, this is just basic information that she knows who we're talking about. So this is a South African politician who came to Kenya for this event, and now he's kind of basically calling the Kenyan president. And she's just listening, and she's like, "Oh my word, what do you mean he say that?" And it's like, can we have somebody who can come and talk about that to our own president?
As in talk about
Like how Malema was talking about President Ruto, about Biden.
About Biden.
Yeah.
Well,
Or somebody who comes into the country and then says that.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, I mean,
It's
right now,
especially around the whole Israel-Palestinian thing.
there are people who are talking. A lot of people are talking against President Biden. Of course, from wherever they are,
Yeah.
inside the U.S. or outside the U.S.
But he's saying like a politician. Okay, let's not talk about the equation that she made.
Yeah.
But it's just more her. She was shocked about that a politician would come from another country to come and really go at another president in his own backyard. As Malema was doing.
That was actually a very risky move for Malema. But with
Why?
Malema,
Why was it risky in your
But
opinion?
that's
No,
Malema though.
I don't think it's
but
risky.
pay attention. It's a risky move in the sense that some of these things, Malema is a very good speaker. He's a very good orator. So sometimes you may go somewhere, and because you have to measure the crowd. If you're in a crowd, for example in a crowd that's pro-president, it can go south. So, but Malema with his style, he doesn't take no prisoners.
No.
He doesn't care who's in the crowd.
No.
He doesn't care, which is actually a breath of fresh air. In the sense that we usually have these people who come and they say all these nice things based on protocol, based on
all
I'm a
protocols
visitor here.
observed.
Yes,
That's
all
what they do.
protocols observed. Yeah.
But then, Ali, do you think if Malema was the president of South Africa, or if Malema was a high government official in South Africa, he will hold the same views?
I definitely Malema, and if it was any other person, I would say no. But with Malema, I honestly think he'll hold the same views. And here's
Because
why.
you remember
I think he may be
our guy
tamed a
here,
bit.
Mr. Ruto talked tough and how he's going to devalue the dollar in 2 weeks, how he's going to do this, how Kenya is going to work with BRICS, blah, blah, blah. Then he came begging here.
So the difference
with the tail
between
like,
so the difference, because the difference between Ruto and Malema is that Ruto is a non-liar. He's known to be inconsistent. He is. You know,
Now-
like there's no other way of saying. But Malema
Use
has
the word
been
inconsistent.
Malema has been very consistent with the positions he's taken, especially on issues that are so controversial in South Africa. For example, in South Africa, if you're a politician and you speak against, you know, like the xenophobia against black people, because politicians use that xenophobia to try and get more votes. They kind of low-key support it. But Malema is one of the few politicians who came out and said, no, this is wrong. And despite that, he still did not lose his seat. That's the reason why I feel like where he comes from the Winnie Mandela school of thought, because he was mentored by Winnie Mandela. I think he's so courageous, and I think, you know, like a lot of powers that be would not want to see him become president, because I honestly think that Malema will bring that same gusto, that same swagger, and that same energy in the presidency. Ruth.
Slay has a question for you. Number one, she says, I hope his visa wasn't cancelled. Well, soon he should be able to come and test that visa-free thing for Africa. So I support him in that.
He's going to be singing that soon and very soon song.
The Jichopevu guy, I forget his name. Look at
Muhammad
how
Ali.
Yeah. Look at how he used to expose the government and how now he is silent.
So he's in.
Yeah, the Jichopevu guy, guy, he got his brown envelope.
Yes.
And he
Several brown envelopes.
Because you see now, you know people's real character when they taste power. You know, like when he was at Jichopevu, he had no power. You know, like he was a journalist. But then when he became a member of parliament, that's when we saw his true colors, when he had power. So Malema, I've actually been following. Malema has been around for a very long time. He's young, he's in his early 40s, but he's been around politics for a very long time. He was actually expelled from the African National Congress.
Oh, that's why he has the EFF right now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, he was expelled from
Yes,
ANC.
because he was anti-leaders. He was like, you guys are wrong. What you guys are doing is wrong. And there's no way that we're going to be part of this thing.
He stood up, you know, like to all the leadership, you know, like to the Mbekis, to all the establishment leaderships. He stood up to them. And that's the reason why he had to form his own political party. And he actually has quite a number of members of parliament within his party.
Yes.
And I think what I've come to learn from Malema, I used to feel initially when I started, you know, like listening to him, I used to feel like, okay, this guy, he's a bit too aggressive. He's not going to achieve. But what I came to learn from him is, especially when you're dealing with especially racists and junior partners of racists. Junior partners of racism are black people who, you know, like push that racist narrative.
Who benefit from it.
Or who benefit from it and also take part in pushing it. So if you're dealing with it, you cannot be a nice person. You know, like you cannot be a nice person. Let's talk well. Malema, you know, like this version of Malema that you're seeing right now, this is a toned down version of Malema.
Yes.
I tell this to people.
It's very nice.
This is
a
very
toned down?
Yes, this is a nice Malema.
Malema.
Yes.
I listened to his Winnie Mandela funeral speech and I was like, wait
even
a
then
minute.
he was toned down.
That is toned down?
That was him toned down.
Yeah.
In parliament, if you've seen, there's times when it's chaos.
And that is why I asked you that question, Ali, because you've seen as he has grown more powerful and he's moving closer to power, and obviously he can be president. He can easily become president. We see there's a softening in him, and that is why I asked you, do you think when he has the responsibility of the whole country and he has to play politics too, will he still have the same views, or will he have to
tone down,
play politics and be a politician?
So there's a softening, but he has not changed his positions. There's a softening. Think about a rugby player. A rugby player, you know, like when he was young, you know, like, and very fast and very strong, you know, like he would go crushing people, you know, like using his speed and skill to score a try. But then now when you've grown older, you still have, you know, like the skills, but you cannot do the same things you used to do when you're younger. So now you're using finesse, you're using more of your mind, you're using more of your experience, and you're using more, but you're still achieving the same thing. So Malema essentially, you know, like he hasn't, like when you carefully go back and even listen to what he was saying then, he would be more crass and he would call journalists choice words. He would give them choice words whenever they would ask him, like silly questions. Nowadays, he doesn't do that. But as far as positions, in as far as like issues about racism is concerned, issues about neocolonialism, issues about Africa getting its own currency, and all that stuff.
Having one military,
trying
to make sure, like using Swahili as like
using Swahili as the lingua franca.
As the lingua franca.
Interesting thing, South Africa right now introduced Swahili into the schooling system. As one of the options for foreign languages, because there were no African foreign languages that were being offered.
So
now you'll have a big cohort of South African kids who are gonna grow up knowing Kiswahili. So Mika, I really think we need to test a presidency of someone like a Julius Malema, because we already have the Burkina Faso guy, and maybe if we mention his name, we're gonna get shadow banned. Ibrahima Traore. Zuckerberg, I hope you're not listening. Ibrahima Traore. He's in that similar school of thought as Julius Malema, and you see he's coming to the presidency with the same mindset, and I think we need to have a couple of those so that the West understands that they cannot just come and bully us and expect us to be nice.
Overall, the AU.
The AU is a work in progress. It's slow.
I think we need those people in the AU.
It's slow. It's an ugly sausage making process. Remember what they did to Ambassador Arikana.
I know. That's why I'm saying we need
the AU.
Malema will not have settled down for that, because she was pushed out by whoever. Is it the president of the AU? Is that his title?
Mohammed. I can't remember his name.
Because the French are not happy.
The French are not happy. So the French still have a lot of control, but you have to understand that it's waning. Because even Malema mentioned Mali and Burkina Faso as the liberated part of Francophone Africa, and he uses very interesting language. That is also very inspiring, and that's also creating a new breed of Pan-Africans and people who can actually see
when you was talking about him coming now to open
Kenya.
up to Kenya and to open up the Pan-African Institute, and talking about him being sent by the ancestors who were picked up by ships, who were thrown off the ship, cuffed and chained,
and they couldn't
fight, right? And they're being eaten by sharks and whatever else while chained, and they couldn't fight. That is the voice that brought him there, and that is a speech that can actually galvanize people.
And I think also with that, the creation of that Pan-African Institute, there needs to be an education, like we can see with what's going on in Palestine right now. There's a lot of lack of information, and also misinformation, and also miseducation. So I think it's very important moving forward, if we are to bring up a generation that now understands these things and understands the importance of having us control, everything of ourselves. It's important for people to learn this history and to understand this history, and not have premature orgasms when you're seeing Prince Charles coming to Kenya. I'm sorry to say.
Was that necessary?
It was necessary. It was absolutely necessary.
That was a Malema side of him.
No pun intended, but it was coming.
No, because when you look, when you're looking at
you be shadow banned.
No, it's okay. If they shadow
Even
ban
me, I'll give them the door opener.
It's okay if they shadow ban me, but to me, it's very disgusting when you see influencers oogling and going and bowing to King Charles and Queen Camilla. There's some there's some nice people who mean all the best for us, when what should have been happening is telling them that you should be apologizing, so that once you apologize, it can trigger fiscal responsibility.
But
we need
won't.
Reparations.
They will not.
And that's why I'm saying there's a few people, the few people that we have doing it, it's an ugly sausage making process. The few people who do it, once we have more people and once we have such institutes that are training younger people, and we start raising people who come up with this conscience of having no fear, and of, you know, like talking
Being
to
proud
being proud
of African.
and also
being
letting
African.
you know, like these people who benefited from colonialism, let them understand that yes, we are not saying that you're the one who tortured us, but you inherited the assets that
Yeah.
were stolen from us.
Yeah.
So if you inherited those
Thank
assets,
you.
Yeah.
guess what? If you inherit a company, you're inheriting both the assets and
The
the liabilities.
liabilities. Yeah.
There's no such thing as saying, I'm taking over this company, but I'm only taking the assets.
I come, I take over Ali's house, I kick him out, chase him away, and yet I bequeath that to my kin.
Yeah.
That in
And
itself,
then Ali's kids,
poison or the whatever.
we would definitely not be happy with that with your kids.
Yes.
Then I come and tell Ali, I've taken Ali's house, right?
Yeah.
Then I come and tell him, boss, we need to negotiate.
On what?
I need to come. Okay, what do you want? I can give you.
I can give you
The
a
bathroom.
bathroom.
I'll give you the bathroom, but you have to work within my conditions. You can't come here. You can only come here between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can only run the water and hot water for like 2 minutes.
That's
Problematic.
Gaza right
But
now.
yet that is your place.
Can I ask you guys a question? And sorry, I'm segueing into a topic you guys already have had before, but I'm gonna just ask. When I hear these things on social media, TikTok and Twitter for the most part, with people defending Israel, being generous to give water to the Palestinians. Oh my word, the Palestinians. I mean, is that not ridiculous? Am I? So
Shadow banning.
Gaza. Okay, oh, you don't want to go there?
No,
Okay.
that's okay. We've already
Usha,
been shadow
you've
banned.
already opened the box.
Yeah.
Okay, Gaza people rely on Israel for water, so they shut off water, they shut off electricity, and people are saying, "Oh, we generously give them water and electricity." Like, no, that is a right. Like, water is a human right.
So you
It's
have
not
to understand.
generous.
You have to understand the mentality, or rather the system that colonizers were using to colonize Africa, which is the exact same playbook that Israel took and used on the Palestinians. And then, of course, you know, like wash off the history, take it off people's conscience, and make people believe that these European descendants that we see in Israel, that they are related to the people who are living in those lands 3,000 years ago. I mean, you know, because this is one of the arguments that people who are pro-Israel, or rather pro-Zionism, bring in,
I think-
that they're entitled to the land because they were, you know, like they were kicked out either by the Romans or whoever kicked them out, you know, like some 3,000 or 2,000 years ago. That's the argument they bring. Yet what they don't say is that the people that are currently there, the majority of the people who are currently there, came from Europe. They're European descendants, you know, because Judaism is not it's not an ethnicity, it's a religion.
It's a religion.
So they're the Europeans, the people who are ethnically there are not related to a majority of the people that are now claiming ancestry in that land. And that's, you know, like one of those unfortunate hard facts that people don't want to deal with. Remember, this has been conditioning that has happened for so many years, and history books have been rewritten and erased to take it off people's conscience. And that's why I still empathize with those people that still believe some of these stories that Israel is giving.
No,
Right.
but like my question was, and I think this is, as you said, it's a playbook of colonialism. How would someone say we're being generous to give people water?
Remember when the British colonizers were giving themselves credit for educating us? Who told them that we
and they
needed...
gave us independence. Remember?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
gave us
and they
independence
gave us
after taking it
independence,
away
yeah.
from us.
Yeah, and they talk about they gave us, you know, like infrastructure, and they gave us this and they gave us that. That is a playbook. So take away, you know, the access to water, and then give them a small bottle of water, and then tell them that you're helping them.
You remember they brought light to the dark continent.
Oh, there's that.
Yes.
And here's another one.
Yeah.
Talking about erasing history. I'm sure you've heard of the United Daughters of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
UDC.
Yes, the ones who were propping up the Confederate leaders and
I
creating
know
those
the other
statues and
one. There's
monuments.
that one. There's another one.
Those are the ones in the south
Okay.
who
those
had
are-
a push.
I know the ones in the north.
No. The ones in the south.
Yeah.
They pushed even the education system back then to whitewash what
A history.
the Confederate
The people who
the
fought
people who
against
fought
the U.S. government.
yes
Yeah.
to whitewash and saying, and also to whitewash slavery itself.
And it has been.
So most of those guys who are born in the south, when with the gusto with which they defend the flag,
Yeah.
the gusto with which they defend the monuments, it's because of what they have been taught. Because we fought, because we were fighting for state rights,
Yeah.
right, or whatever. Because economy,
freedom.
we wanted for freedom or whatever. But in essence, they were fighting to keep slavery.
Okay, some comments here.
Oh, sorry.
Slay says, I was asking, does anyone have a video of the untoned version of Malema? There's one video that I'm gonna share with you, Slay, where Malema was telling a reporter who was asking a silly question that he has.
Was asking a question.
It was a silly question.
Okay.
I agree with Malema. It was a silly question. The reporter was asking a silly question, and Malema told the reporter that he has absolutely nothing in his trousers, and that's the untoned version
Wow.
of Malema. Yes, and this was in a public place where it was a press conference where there were so many other reporters. So this is a very
Yani
civil-
hana nini.
I don't know what he meant.
Hana ile.
Can we keep
I
moving?
don't know what he meant. I don't know what
He
he
has
meant.
no.
Let's keep moving.
So
Hana Bano.
Next
so
story.
Slay says AU
Anabano.
is so sad. And then DJ Tucha says Malema in SA Parliament plays politics. It's the same thing, just different tactics. He's toning it down because now he's closer to power. Once he's in power, he will be more presidential and less opposition leader like. I don't think so, but
We're yet to see.
We're yet to see. South Africa has an election next year. I don't know whether he has enough numbers to become a president, but yeah, he's become very popular. So let's wait for that moment and see, and hopefully we'll not be disappointed. And Afro Jamaican says, I agree with Ali. I'm not sure what part that it was that you're agreeing with me. And then Slay says, yes, we need to be okay with who we are and have confidence that we can lead ourselves. And then Slay says the West needs Africa, not the other way around. That's very true. And then Drew Kimani says, sounds like IMF. Slay says the most toxic mindset in history. Doreen wants that video to be sent. I'll find that video and I'm gonna share it with you guys so that you understand that even this Malema version that you're seeing today, he was very, very, and he still is very fearless. It's just that now he has a bit more.
He plays the
grown-up
game.
language.
Yeah, he's a little bit more diplomatic in his delivery, but he's still not mincing his words.
Yeah.
So he's gonna sugarcoat the way that they bite you / hit you.
Yeah, so Afro Jamaican is also asking an interesting question: is when are we going to see a leader like that in Kenya? We've actually had such leaders.
We've had such,
We
and they
have one.
Yeah,
come
we
up.
we actually have one.
They come up, and then a lot of times they get brown enveloped into silence.
Yeah, but we've had such leaders, and I know this is gonna be political, and some people are gonna disagree. I've been following Raila Odinga since my childhood. This was Raila Odinga. When you see Malema, this was Raila Odinga. And of course, the powers that be have never wanted him to be president. It's quite clear that he won the 2007 election. I mean, now of course he's much older than he was, and he's been around, for much longer. But we've had such people. The late Martin Shikuku, I don't know whether, Gen Zs might remember Martin Shikuku, but we've
No, they do not.
we've had so many. I would even say, besides a few mistakes that he made more recently, former Makueni governor, Kivutha Kibwana, these are people who are very forward thinking, even when I was, following them back in the 90s as a child. So we've had so many of them. I think the problem is that the Kenyan political system has never respected such people. The South African political system still has some respect for, those, for example, like those people who are in the struggle, characters like Malema. the Kenyan political system has not been very kind to such people.
Some
But
have been
hopefully-
Malaysia.
They are yes, they are
Yeah.
Wow.
I
that's-
know.
Yeah.
you've
You taught us a new
read.
word.
No, I read
Yeah.
what somebody said.
yes.
Okay.
They are stifled, and Kenya's political system is very good at stifling one who is not necessarily in the opposition, but one who is not with the power.
Yes. Who's not with the powers that
Yes.
be.
So at the point in time when you have the power or you're in line with the powerful peeps, you're good. But the minute you fall out of,
Robert Oko.
you will be stepped on thoroughly. And we have a lot of Robert Okos. He's the one who we saw, but you know, like guys like
You know,
Boya.
a lot of them were killed.
Yeah.
Yes.
People like Okondo,
Masinde Muliro.
Okondo, Masinde Muliro,
Pio Gama
Oko, Wangamati.
Pio Gama.
There were a lot
There are
of
many.
actually a lot
There are
of
many.
JM
Yeah,
Karaoke.
JM Karaoke.
the bishop Muge.
Alexander Kipsang.
Muge was not even a politician. He was just
Yes,
a
but he was
making- but, no, yeah, but,
and he
but
was
okay, you're saying
constant.
politicians.
He was
Yeah, but
constant.
you're saying
Sorry. Okay.
We're saying politicians,
Got it.
guys who were in politics, guys who had office. And
Sure,
these were guys who were
JM
in
is
government in a
JM
one-party
and
state.
JM wasn't
But they
really
were
anti.
but they were rebellious as they could, and they were actually putting Moi on a check, and even Matiba, and that is why they
Yes.
messed up with his mental
With
state
his health, yes.
because he was just a menace to the president. Now the thing is about Kenya is that Kenya has become more of a lip service country. It has become more of where, especially the citizenry, worry about the reputation of somebody. So in Kenya, it's quite easily to make the citizenry doubt somebody's credibility by just ruining his reputation. And even when he fights or says something, it just goes silent. Let's take, for example, at the beginning of this year, when we had Mandamano Mondays, every Mondays it was a public holiday, right? And then what did people say? People said, right, you're reading our businesses, blah, 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 stay home, everybody stay home. Guess what? Kenya Kwanza, Azimio decided to stay home, no more Mandamano. What happened the other week when everything went up? People were calling for Azimio to Andamana, and what did Azimio leaders tell them? You know what? It's your constitutional right to go and protest. Go and protest. You're the guys who support the government. Now you're not supporting them. Go and protest. You said we are reading things for you. Now the thing is, as much as we have these leaders, do we have people to support these leaders? Somebody like Boni, I personally have had squabbles with Boni so many times. But one thing I respect about Boni is that he will fight
Yes.
for what he believes is true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? He will fight for it, he will do. But then how many people actually will stand behind Boni? I do not agree with a lot of things Boni said or did before. But one thing is, every time Boni is standing up to something, I'll always be there. Even when if he needs financial support or anyway, I'll be there because I know that I do not have his resilience. Mimi kichwa ngumu, but mimi si kichwa ngumu ka yeye.
The problem with Kenyans is that even if Jesus or Prophet Muhammad came, they would still try to find a speck in their eye. And that's a problem. So a lot of these good leaders who come, people are going to say, like 22 and a half years ago, he had 3 clandes. People are going to start digging, like some very silly things and saying, like even for Boni, you'll hear people start saying, oh, like he's getting funding from foreigners. And that's the exact same thing that people used to say about Wangari Maathai. Before now, everyone
Became
is
a
acting
hero.
like, oh yeah, we always loved Maathai. We're always trying to find these small flaws in the people who are willing to go out there and fight for us, instead of asking them, like,
How can I support you?
how can I support you?
I think this is a part where I think most Kenyans who end up being a bit more outspoken have grapple with. We're brought up in a society that stifles you, and it's like we're brought up to be cookie cutters.
Yeah.
This is how you're supposed to behave, supposed to be to react. If you don't agree with anything, if you don't agree with something, talk to people behind backs, like behind closed doors. I
Yeah.
think that is what we've been conditioned. And now,
Don't behave badly.
don't behave badly.
Yeah.
But then behind closed doors, you're also, because not that power dynamics, you'll be shut down. Or so coming out and saying, I'm not talking behind closed doors. I'm going to actually talk out in the public. It's out of norm.
It's out of
norm
yeah.
from what we've been trained to do, right? And so I can see when people feel like Boni is going too far. They feel that way because they've been told you cannot do this. This is a bit too far. And so I think people react to what they've been brought up.
We've been conditioned.
They've been conditioned, and I think part of me, I'll say this: I am Boni supporter 100%, warts and all, good or bad. I don't care, because I think he represents the thing I want to be, but I know I can't be because this conditioning really worked well on me, right? But in my own way, I will support him. I will, as Mika said, I will support him financially if need be, like I did for his campaign, things like that. But we have to get out of that conditioning, which is hard, because if you live in a society that people do one thing, when you do something out of step, then you're seen as the bad person because you've been told that's a bad person.
No, that's
so
true.
Sometimes I actually have grace for when people do that. The only place I draw lines when people disagree with people like Boni is when they now become abusive and threaten his life because they feel like you're a bit too much. I think that's why I'm like, you can disagree with somebody being different from you, but his life, is family, or that should be out of bounds. Disagree, but don't now make it a personal thing to quote unquote take him out because he looks different, he talks different, and he says things different.
I think this is one of those cases of Kenyans are always ready to kill the messenger, but never listen to the message. The messenger comes, messenger is just delivering the message. But wanasema message kakando. We messenger, Satan, blood,
Umavared.
And then people
distraction.
People are always quick to pick up.
Na sio mosh. Amevared lakini sio mosh. Oh, sorry.
Oh, mosh.
Yeah, people are always quick to pick up narratives.
Yes.
And I see that consistently happening. And I think there needs to be a re-education whereby popular narratives that go around that sometimes are entirely not true. I'll give an example.
Wrong.
I'll give an example.
WhatsApp news networks.
I'll give an example of a narrative that goes around within especially during political season, that Raila inherited a party from the father. Yet, if you go and just do a basic Google search, you will learn that that's not true.
Or Google Bird.
Yeah, Google Bird. Yeah, or Chat GPT. You will notice that that's not true. So there's a lot of things, and then sometimes people come with so much passion and gusto. And then when you ask them a very simple question, they fall apart like they are Malinze the cat in Chinua Achebe's book. They don't know. And they and they
Which
don't
book?
yeah?
Why
Chinua Achebe's
things
book.
fall apart?
Things fall apart.
Yes. So to me, it's one of those things that is so frustrating.
Hapo you've confused slay, but carry on.
Yeah. No, it's one.
Oh, sorry.
It's one of those things
Selena Slay.
that is so frustrating. That's something that's verifiable. Like this is a verifiable fact. You don't have to believe what I told you or what he told you. You can easily go and check for yourself. But people are just stuck to these narratives that they had from either their MCA or maybe their MP or a governor. This silly short tagline narrative.
Remember, those are stories that they don't just start from UMCA governor. No. These are stories that zinaanzia hapa tu living room.
Yeah, they start at the dinner table.
Hata si pale base ati watu na pengine stories za jaba wase wakichana veve ni nini.
They start at the dinner table.
Hapo tu kwa jumba.
And that's why next week when we're doing a recap of the year, we're gonna be reviewing, the best shows. And the shows, I don't like using the word worst, but the shows that could have done better. And there's one particular one I have, and we're going to talk about it. And it has to do with people wanting to come and banter. And unfortunately, in a platform like this, where facts are not only being interrogated by the panel, but they're being interrogated by, like our very smart audience who, will question, like anything they're hearing that doesn't sound true. This is where people unravel, because I think people are used to sitting in pubs and in
Pale base of Janaveve.
or in baby showers and pre-weddings and just talking randomly, and now they try to bring that in a setting where facts are gonna be interrogated.
Why did you have to mention baby showers?
I know. I'm like, what?
No,
what
it was just a random thought.
And weddings.
It was just, these are just random places.
No, they're not.
These are just random places.
This is a case where the messenger should be
I know.
nyahunyod. You shall nyahunyo this messenger.
Anyway, Mike.
Yes.
Another thing that we've been experiencing, these platforms that we've been talking about today.
Yes.
ChatGPT, Google Bird, they've started becoming popular and people have started using them
Yes.
for certain tasks. We've also been attempting to use them.
Yes.
As you can see, we publish videos daily, at least 2 videos daily, and to make sure that you guys actually click on the videos and share them, we have to word them in such a way. We don't like clickbaiting, but we like wording it in such a way that will get you curious and want to know.
We mdalasini them.
Yeah, we spice it up a bit.
We word bait.
Yeah.
We
spice it
mdalasini. No,
up.
we
At
mdalasini.
the end of this, there's a bait to this conversation.
We
No,
mdalasini
No,
them.
no, there's no bait. The
It's
issue-
mdalasini.
there's something that we've been experiencing with these platforms, because we've been trying to see how recommendations from ChatGPT and Google Bird, and I think I'm gonna let one Mike talk about some of the experiences that we've gotten as we get to this topic about new age censorship and shadow banning. Mike.
So we had a very beautiful conversation last week with my niece and her friend.
Okay,
So Rehema and Jide.
Yes.
Addressing a myriad of issues, starting from what students and campuses, educational institutions, what was percolating, what the buzz was, and especially pertaining to like what was going on in Gaza, and you could sense that people were talking about it, and of course they were pro and against, and how maybe some faculty were pro and student bodies were anti. So they are pro-Israel, these guys are anti. So we were trying to mdalasini, trying to come up with something. And when entering the, please generate this, that, the other, we were quickly redirected to go to Google, because we mentioned Gaza.
We mentioned
Israel.
Gaza.
Can you put the camera
Gaza.
on your face?
Yeah, we mentioned Gaza, and I'm gonna give a quick.
Somebody's asking.
I'm gonna give a quick.
Or they want to see
example
what
here.
it looks like.
Yeah, they want
No.
to see. No, he was talking.
No, I'm gonna give a quick example of some of the things that we got, just so that you don't think that that this is being made up. So we asked, one of the questions that we asked is rewrite the YouTube title, and the title that we wanted to write was "Faculties Reacting Against Protests Erupting on U.S. college campuses over war in Gaza." So the answer that they gave was, "The conflict in Israel and Gaza is complex and changing rapidly. If you'd like up-to-date information, try using Google search." This is actually an improvement. Previously, they would just say it's complex and they would end it. They would not give you an answer. But then, when you change just the same wording, but you change the word Gaza with war in Congo. So now read, "Faculties reacting against protests erupting on U.S. college campuses over war in Congo." it gives a long list of recommendations. You know, professors speak out against U.S. involvement in Congo. College faculty condemn protests against war in Congo. The one ya Gaza, wamesema hiyo hapo, is
And
too
a
much.
Google.
Yeah. And then when you take that same
Iruta Ukraine.
no ukitoa I don't have the Israel one. Ukitoa Gaza and Iweka Israel, it gives you an answer. It gives you an answer. And let me see if I can find that Israel one. It does give you an answer. So basically, all these artificial intelligence platforms, they may be intelligent, but they're not necessarily doing what they're telling you that they're supposed to do, because they say that they're neutral and they'll comb the whole internet, you know, if this information is there, and just lay it down for you. But that's not the case. That's not the case of what they're doing. And yeah, and we found this very shocking. A lot of searches that we're doing that involved Gaza or anything that seemed pro-Palestine, you would get that message that this conflict is complex.
And no, we did not. I mean, specifically, we did not choose Ukraine, because I know you're asking about Ukraine.
I wanted to know what
We didn't do that because ideally what we were trying to see, because right now that's the current.
You know, they
and the
have
hot
updated
word.
it right now. Even if you search Israel, it's giving you the same answer. So basically, they are avoiding anything to do with that conflict.
So here's the funny thing, Mika. When you weka Israel, ukitoa the same sentence,
Just change one.
toa Gaza, weka Israel.
Yeah, I've just
They
done
will
the
give
same.
you an
I've done
answer.
it right now.
They-
You can relate to your generic answer. The conflicts in Israel and Gaza is complex and changing rapidly.
So I'm gonna share with you, you know, like a couple of different, and this has been, because we've been doing this for now, I think close to 2 months, and it was just very shocking, you know, like especially when this conflict began.
And the interesting thing was what I was trying to do, and I, you know, before I don't know if I mentioned, like when we were chatting, I my intention was to, because when you posted that, I was like, Allah, shadow banning, and then he was quick to change from Gaza to Congo, and then we saw that, and we were having this discussion offline as we were bantering, and you know, Mika can chime in. I think because the idea was, I'm of the opinion that in as much as this thing has been set up, it's AI, it has been fed a lot of things, a lot. I mean, for it to be able to, if you ask it to come up with, let's say, the geological structure of, or the chemical bonding component of water and carbon, and it'll come up and write up something. If you are doing homework, if you're writing a paper, you put it in there and then you repeat and rinse and repeat, and it changes. It has been fed that information. Personally, I believe that some of that information, of course, is not all of it has been fed, and especially pertaining to certain areas, certain parts, or for lack of a better word, certain conflicts. Hakuna kitu ya kusema, there's nothing to address that. I am sure if we were probably to put up Ukraine, maybe Mika, quickly you can work out Ukraine and Russia, see what you're going to come up with. But it's ideally, in as much, I believe it's information that has been fed, and it has specifically not been fed that. And it goes to like that, the UDC,
so I think
Daughters of Confederacy and whatever.
AI essentially, you know, like what it does is that it can comb
It
the
brings
whole
answers
internet.
for Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So AI basically it combs the whole internet and gets its answers. So it can do, you know, like it at a very fast pace, because
Yes.
these are supercomputers. So it combs the whole internet. But I think what they do to the algorithm is that there are certain questions. It's not that it doesn't have access to the answers, but I think what they do to the algorithm is that they muzzle it at that part. They're like, this one, do not answer yes, you know, like there are answers available to this question, but do not answer this question.
I did change the question and I put, what is the situation of refugees in Gaza? and it brought me a lot. It brought me
You
answers
did not
about
choose the word
refugees.
conflict.
What is the situation of refugees in Gaza? And then I went to ChatGPT, it gave me the same. But then when I asked about the what atrocities are happening in Gaza and Israel, for both of them, it gave me, ChatGPT said I don't have real information as my knowledge was last updated in January 2022. Up until that point, the Gaza Strip has been a region marked by ongoing conflict and humanitarian concern, particularly related to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. However, the specific situation can change rapidly, and I recommend checking the latest news for reliable sources to get the most up-to-date information on any current event or atrocities in Gaza. News agencies, humanitarian organizations, and official government statements are good places to look for accurate and timely information.
Now, I think what people need to understand when using these new platforms, because AI is a level above, like your basic Google search, because Google search will just give you a list of links where the answers are, and you have to look for the answers yourself within those links. But AI kind of does that work for you and then just summarizes the answer for you. So I think people ought to be very, very careful in how they do this, because remember, for a long time, people used to trust, like mainstream media and anything they say.
Yes.
But of course, over time, people have come to understand that mainstream, like there's certain pieces of information they muzzle, they don't give information in the right way, in a very objective way. So now let's also understand that the same thing is happening right now, even with artificial intelligence. Remember, I don't know whether any of you knows, but right now, like, there are no journalists who are being allowed to go in to Gaza except if they are going in with the IDF. And that includes CNN journalists, and whatever footage they get has to be reviewed first by the IDF. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, we live in an age of verification. Just go and check for yourself. So some of this information that you're getting now from even from CNN, and let's even assume that CNN is trying to give us the true picture of what's happening, it's being censored by IDF. They're not allowing journalists to go in there. And as we speak, they've also killed journalists. They had killed journalists before this conflict. They had already killed some journalists before. There was an Al Jazeera journalist. There were there's a number of journalists who had been killed before this conflict. So I think we need to understand that we are in a place where we just, any information that we get, like especially from mainstream media, especially here in the US, you just have to be very careful about it. What they tell you, what they say, you just have to be very careful.
And I think we discussed this last week. I think it is, there is a lot of information out there, but there's also good information that is out there. And I think it's a matter of probably trying to find it's a matter of finding or looking for verifiable, factual sources or information, because they're there.
Primary sources, if you can get access to a primary source. Yeah.
Now, and I think we're off here, we were even talking about the Nakba, the documentary for our friend over here, Ruth. And I remember this one part where they were interviewing an Israeli historian, and he wanted, it's the equivalent of trying to get a Freedom of Information Act, trying to get some information pertaining to maybe classified or declassified information, or just trying to get information. So this guy was trying to get information about like the before 1948, just because they have all that, they have the history. So he was trying to get that. He was told to come after 10 years.
Yes,
that was
very weird.
He went after 10 years. He was told,
come back after 10
years.
Come back after 10 years.
And this story now, what means
so it takes 10 years to declassify, according to them, or
he was told to come back after 10 years. So the first 10 years elapsed.
He came.
He came back. He was told
come back
after another
fresh
10 years.
Okay, so is this information that's supposed to be declassified? Is that what it is?
It's
Or-
classified information. It's classified
Okay.
information, but now it's
but with the freedom of
Israeli.
information, you should get it.
So I
Quote, unquote.
I don't know about
FOIA.
I don't know about the freedom of information
On their
law in
side.
Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
We
I
don't know,
about that.
but it's information that it's information that you probably could get, like if it's available, from the foundation of the Israel, the founders, maybe Ben Gurion stuff, it's just information, the cleansing or the how the systematic way in which people were. Because it's their communiques. There's information that you can get. Like okay, a message has been sent, whatever it is, whatever they used to use back in the day, the equivalent of an email back in the day in Atumwa. Okay, you guys go out. This is what you're going to strategize. This is what you're going to go
like
about.
cables,
Yeah. Stuff like that. That information I'm sure is somewhere.
It's somewhere.
You know,
and it's locked up.
Yeah, it's locked up.
Yeah.
So now, and so what was happening was in that documentary, it's people who were alive at that time who are narrating what happened.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's oral history, not second or third or fourth, first person.
Yeah, from a primary source.
Primary source.
Yeah.
What happened was we were sleeping, we came, we went, we were fukuzwad, we went to the bush, we went into a camp, we were there for whatever, we couldn't even get whatever. And remember the gentleman who was supposed to be the UN guy, I think he was Swedish.
Yes.
Somebody. He was Malizwad. He was attacked. Anyway, I'm divulging too much information from the whatever.
Let me read the comments because I think we've changed topics and
I'm hoping the person who wanted to see my mug is happy now.
Please communicate. We're glad to see you. I'll say that. Pablo says, I think people don't read research, and worst of all, don't question. Half-truths and misinformation travels faster than the truth when we're talking about Kenya and our Kenya Pacific people. Look at even Kenyan newspapers. They feed off X, formerly Twitter, and don't take time to verify information.
Please. You're going to trigger Ali.
Okay.
You're triggering Ali.
I'm just reading comments.
Yeah, let's let that go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then that's when can the camera please face one mic at the time? That's when that came. And then Slay says double standards. DJ Tucha responds to Pablo and says, we beginning to be a nation that only listens to the blogs and gutter press. They will quote BNN and Nairobi gossip as valid news sources. Drew Kimani says, controlled narrative example is X pulling down hashtag letter to America. Now we're back to shadow banning. Then Pablo says, I agree. I have seen them quote some media sources that I would classify as gutter press and just plain untruths. They do that in the rush to post breaking news, only for them to quietly put them down if put to task to explain. So Mika can find the Gazette notice when Nakuru became a city. People are not letting that go. Pablo, Pablo says the machine language fed on these AI platforms is controlled by the same people who created them. They get to decide what gets shared and what doesn't. While AI is smart, AI is also controlling and can skew information however way the model language is based. Then Pablo still says, totally second Ali on the issue of journalists going into Gaza with the idea of Israel wants to control the narrative and is coming out of Gaza. Unfortunately, to just show the world Israel side of the story. Mainstream media is NWO. What does that mean? Truth to social...
New World Order.
Okay. Truth to social issues is interest, power, and follow the money sources. Slay says smoke signal. I don't know what we're referring to there. Then journalists being barred from reporting on this. Does this not infringe on freedom of information and mass speech? Freedoms and rights were human treaties fallacy or facade. The weak will always be controlled.
So
That's grisly.
yes. So again, like this is one of those topics that we are gonna keep talking about. It's a fluid situation. We don't know what's gonna happen there, but a lot of a lot of censorship is happening. When I was in the protest in DC, that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The first thing that I noticed was that all live streaming was blocked by all the Meta platforms, because all the people that were around were trying to stream live, not working. Then at some point, they cut off all the phones.
Yeah.
So there was no phone communication. There were like more than 300,000 people.
But can I say something? Where were you guys at?
Freedom Plaza in DC.
Oh, I'm only saying that because when I go for the fireworks, you can't stream that either.
So it wasn't only streaming. You could not text.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You
could
can't use your
not-
phone. Your phone is, you can only record, but you cannot communicate.
You could not call. You could not. Now here's the interesting thing. We had people who went down just a few blocks away,
Yeah.
and then they could do it.
Yeah, because
they
it's because the signals are
Congested.
actually it's congested.
Yes.
What
I
Ruth is
think
saying,
it's
I go
congestion.
to a lot of events in in DC where there's a lot of people congregated.
Yes.
It's just congested.
but,
you
but
can't
here's the
use
interesting
it.
thing.
Do
How
you, do, you know,
come?
do you know why they do that? It's quite simple. It's part of protecting of the city. They can actually cut down the service. What are they saying is true. And the reason they do that is because if, let's say, for example, like during an inauguration or the president is outside or one of the leaders, in case you want to use your phone to activate a bomb you have in your bag or a bomb that is in your car and everything, it will not be able. So they can control the signal.
So
If
the
they want to
signal.
control things,
Yeah.
if you're many people going for fireworks, that's
Yeah.
a terrorist target.
So there's
So they're going to shut down the thing. So
But what I'm
if
trying
they
to
see
say-
if they see a protest and they don't want you to broadcast that protest, they can still use the same technology to shut down
Okay.
the internet connectivity. The
So-
thing is, as long as there's no radio signal, it's not going to work.
So
It's something that can be used during protection of people, and it's something that they can use it, like for example during the protest. I'll give you an example. When they were doing a march for Israel, people were alive.
yes, the March for Israel, people are alive, and even during presidential inaugurations, maybe someone might say March for Israel. Maybe there are not as many as the Palestinian march, but during presidential inaugurations, like when we went for Obama's inauguration, people were going live. People were going. Sorry, not.
People
Not
are
at
posting
the
live.
mall.
Like people will take pictures and videos and post
And post
immediately.
them later.
Wait.
No, during inauguration they were
Not
doing
during.
Not during.
No,
No,
you
inauguration.
can't.
that time
No,
during
no,
the
no,
no.
Okay.
Trust me, V2 signal dead. There's nothing.
Can I say something? Can I ask a question, Mika,
Yes.
and the panel? Is it possible that yes, governments have the ability to slow down radio signals and stuff, and so we can't use our phones for security
They
purposes?
have the ability to shut down.
Yes.
radio
Okay,
signals
so
if
I'm
the
saying
phones will not work.
that's true. Now, is it also possible that where there's a congestion of people, that the signals might be so congested that they're weak? It really can't communicate. You can't
No,
transmit.
because the thing is this: if the radio signal in that area can support 1 million people, it doesn't matter where those 1 million people are. As long as that antenna can support signal to support 1 million phones, even if you put those 1 million phones in one room, they will work.
So my question is that true in DC downtown, especially around the mall, that the signals that
In
can support
DC
the people?
downtown, when you don't have signal, they shut it down for
Yes.
security purposes.
The reason why I say it was jammed is because if it's signal issues, it's not gonna, because it happened like right at the same moment for most people. Different networks: Verizon, AT&T, Mint, Boost Mobile,
Yeah.
whatever people are using,
Yeah.
and it kind of happened like instantly because people who got there early had started live streaming. But I think as they saw the crowds gathering, I think they figured out, because you had people with all this wearing all these arafats kama hii yangu hii Pablo alikuwa anauliza, you know, vile nyinyi mnavaa sisal skirts si watu tunavaa hizi hapa. Pablo alikuwa anauliza kama hii ni dera.
Where this
No, it's just an example, just a random example. Pablo alikuwa anauliza kama hii ni dera.
Yes, skirt your choice.
Yeah. So there are people, there are young men, you know, like on top of U-Haul trucks, walikuwa wamevaa hizi maarafat wamejifunga kwa uso with just the eyes. So I think, you know, like YT people were watching and they were like, okay, I you know, like I'm scared, you know, because there were so many people.
So I don't disagree with you, but I think I don't disagree with you that was, you know, the reason that they shut off the radio signal, the signals. But I think because I've been there for a very neutral event where like I wanted to stream live my fireworks and I couldn't, and I couldn't even send pictures or anything. So
Ruth,
yes,
look at it this way. Fireworks, a lot of people, innocent people are coming in. Fireworks make which noise? Explosive.
Yes.
Noises.
Yeah.
So if I want to use fireworks to hide my intentions to hurt people, I can do that, right? And that will reduce the response, and then people will be distracted by the fireworks. So if I decide, let's say I have a small pack of C4 in my backpack and I want to throw it to people, or I want to put it near cars, and I explode and I explode it, and then people hear an explosion and people assume that's just fireworks. Even response from the public, let's say the stampede that's going to come from there, and let's just even the people that I'm going to hurt, that's a lot of people that I can easily hurt. So it's just the same way in when there's such events like fireworks. You will find a lot of buildings that have rooftop access. At that time they tell you don't access the rooftop, because you can be a sniper and use the fireworks and shoot somebody with the noise of the fireworks. So when it comes to security, it's not a matter of because this protest was out of Palestine or anything. It's just that when they feel that this event is a security threat or they can be a security issue, they are going to try to protect the city as best as they could. Remember, DC doesn't just carry only American politicians; it carries a lot of
the
people.
whole world.
And somebody can get hurt and can cause a world war.
And here's the interesting thing with that Palestine protest. I don't know whether people had planned this out, but all those buildings in DC, there were guys who go upstairs with Palestinian flags. So like we're looking down. Uko juu, you know, like almost in every building we're passing by.
This is such a progressive city. These people like will find a way to if they support a cause.
All right. I want to remind the listeners that you tuned into the One Mic Show, and I'm your host and producer, Ali Badawi. We're here talking about new age social media censorship, also known as shadow banning. On panel tonight is, of course, Mr. One Mic, DJ Omosh Fire, sports anchor Mika Och, and guest host Ruth Kilungu. Now, later on the show, we'll do a quick recap of last week's episode on the culture conflict between US-born African Gen Zs and their parents. So stay tuned and feel free to start dropping comments right now. Our lines are open. The number to call is 202-683-4570. Press star 5 to speak. The hit or miss segment by DJ Moshfire is back with a bang, so stay tuned for that. But before we continue, we want to have a quick sports break by Mika Och. Uno bado tuko na kale ka drop, and I want to start by asking Mika a few questions. Ebu chapa kwa ka drop.
1, 2, 3.
Sports and more sports in the One Mic Show.
I am Mika real quick, you know, because
yes. So real quick, we're going to start off our sports with rugby, where we're going to say that all is set for the Tusker Safari Sevens rugby tournament, and with all the teams gunning for the top prizes of the tournament, which kicks off tomorrow on Saturday morning at the Kenya Rugby Football Union grounds in Ngong Road, Nairobi. The Kenya Shujaz are going to be in Pool A alongside the Red Whalers, Uganda, South African All-Stars, and the Tropic Sevens team. Germany will headline Pool B, which features the Morans, Samurai, KCB, and Western Province Select. Kenya Lioness will feature in the women's competition alongside Uganda, TAC Sevens, Cubs, and Tropic Sevens ladies team. The 2021 losing finalists, Germany, are the top seed of this year's tournament together with USHURU. So we are seeing, guys, we're seeing a return for Tusker Safari Sevens after, I think the last time that we had one, the tournament was in 2019, 2020 because of the pandemic, it wasn't there. 2021 and 2022, the tournament was hosted. It's gone back to its original home, the KRA rugby grounds. And as we see this year, it doesn't have a lot of high-profile teams, but it does have a few teams. This is a tournament that Kenya should be using as a warm-up and as a way of using picking up their team that they are going to be use it for the qualification tournament. Pretty much, there's not much that can be said. We're just hoping that the team can be able to win tomorrow and can improve from here and going on. And najua hamna maswali kwa rugby, so we'll move on to soccer where currently going on right Omosh Tulia. Currently going on is the World Cup qualifiers, and Kenya played yesterday the first game in the World Cup qualifiers, losing 2-1 to Togo at home away to Togo. Kenya have another game.
Gabon.
Yeah, they lost to Gabon. So thank you, and Mike. Yeah, Kenya have another game that is gonna be next week. Kenya in a tough group. It's not a really tough group, but in a group whereby they're playing Togo. They're playing Togo, Ivory Coast. Why am I saying Togo all the time?
Gabon.
Yeah, Kenya in the same group with Ivory Coast, Burundi, Gabon, Gambia, and Seychelles. Ivory Coast lead the group right now, having played one game. They won their first game 9-0, leading with 9 goals. Burundi are second in that pool, having won their game 3-2, and Gabon also a third with a 2-1 win. Gambia a fourth with having lost 3-2 to Burundi, and Kenya a fifth, having lost 5-1 to Gabon, and Seychelles. Seychelles are closing up that group with a difference of -9 goals after having lost to Ivory Coast. Kenya plays Seychelles on Monday, November 20th, and that is a game that we expect Kenya to lose. So, having listed those teams that are in that team, Ivory Coast, Burundi, Gabon, Gambia, Kenya, and Seychelles, I just want to bring it back to you guys in the panel. What do you think? Do you feel Kenya are going to qualify? Remember, the number one team qualifies automatically, and then the number two have a possibility of qualifying based on the best runners-up. So there are going to be a few slots that are going to be qualified. They're going to be used to qualify for the best runners-up. Ali, I'll start with you. Do you see Kenya pulling out of this group, or is it a hard ask for them?
To be honest, I'm Team Kenya all day, but I don't see us pulling out of it. The only chance, if we had defeated Gabon earlier this week, Gabon were clearly better than us, but we scored fast. So I was hoping we could sit on that one goal and win.
We had chances.
But we didn't. So, it's going to be tough. The Harambee Stars is sometimes very unpredictable. There are days when they can come out and play very well. But I'm worried if, for example, we have a draw or lose to Shelly. That's going to be a big, big problem, and then Burundi, I've never seen the Burundian team play, but of course, Ivory Coast, I'm not expecting a result.
Burundi team is actually pretty decent.
Burundi is pretty decent. It's pretty
they have a lot of guys who play international. Some of them even play pro in Kenya.
Okay.
And they're very good.
Or then more reason to worry. And personally, I honestly think the upcoming World Cup, it's going to be in 2026.
But don't they have slots for more African teams?
They have slot for more teams. It's 48 teams. I don't know how many of those go to Africa. I don't know whether it's going to be 7 or 8.
I think we got 2 more.
Okay.
Out of it. So I could be wrong.
So here's my thing. I honestly don't think Kenya is prepared for the World Cup. we should be preparing to qualify for the 2025 African Cup of Nations that I believe is going to be in Morocco, and then in 2027
We are not playing that tournament. Remember, we
Remember,
were
we
banned from play.
were banned.
We
yeah.
were banned, so we didn't play for that.
We didn't
Holy-
qualify.
holy
We
Moses.
couldn't even
We
do the
didn't play the
qualifications.
qualification.
Remember?
Wololo, yeah. So then I guess what we should work on right now is African
So
Cup
the-
2027 African Cup. We are automatic qualifiers.
That one we qualify.
Yeah. So I think we should be working on doing well in that tournament, because right now, as assembled, I honestly don't think we have any chance. And I don't know. I did see they wanted to pick up. I don't know whether Nabi Kibunguchi, like joined Harambee Stars, but I think there was talk of him, joining Harambee Stars from the US. But I don't know whether that happened. And I don't know if we do a good job in assembling our players who play in foreign countries. But right now, I think things are not looking good. Mika, back to you.
I was reading a comment here by Drew Kimani. I had Ruto talk to Charles about Gor joining the Premier League. And I think actually Gor do have a chance of joining the Premier League, because today there was some shocking news in the Premier League. For the first time, we've seen a Premier League team has been deducted points. Everton were deducted 10 points because of financial fair play. This comes in after Everton did exceed more than their financial fair play allocation, and they did try to say that this was posed due to poor operating and an operating environment during the COVID time, and which had seen the team quality dropping, and thus they had spent more than they were allocated. Financial fair play basically tells teams to live within their means. The teams are given an allowance of going to an excess of 105 million over a period of 3 years in the amount of money that they can use to buy players and pay their wages. Now, with Everton getting 10 points deduction out of breaching only one financial fair play rule, we are left with questions wondering what is going to happen to Manchester City and Chelsea. Manchester City have 115 violations against them that the Premier League is looking at, and Chelsea have around 20 violations. There is talk that these violations might lead to those two teams being docked more than 30 points or even relegation. Omosh, as a Chelsea fan, are you worried about this, or do you think that by the time it gets to Chelsea's time, they will have figured out a way of balancing out? Basically, it's looking bad for you guys.
Malaysia in those points.
So the way if they go by what they've done in the past, and I think Man City has been
They've never done it in the past.
Okay,
Everton was the first one.
I thought that
Everton was
remember
the
there was
first
a
team
time
to-
when Man City there was a violation that they had done.
That
and-
was in Europe. Man City paid
Okay.
a fine of millions. Now the Premier League. Remember, the Premier League is being the Premier League doesn't want an independent regulator to be formed to regulate them. So they're trying to show that they can be able.
So they're trying to
manage the
autocorrect.
integrity of the league. Yes.
Okay,
And
so
they've used
I think, and I don't know how. Okay, so with the one of Everton, were the points deduction immediate, or were they trying to
the point
space it out
deductions that
and
immediate
saying
right now.
that will
Everton right now have 4 points. They've been
Is
deducted
number
10
19.
points, then they've been dropped to number 19.
okay, and I think they can play themselves out of their position. But anyway, I don't see it as a problem.
No, they can't play themselves out of their position. This season was the best season for them to lose those 10 points. They just need to win one game and they're out of relegation.
Okay, well, that's what I meant. That they basically can come out of.
They can come out of that relegation zone.
Yes, that's what I was trying. That's what I was trying to say. And if being that they've been docked the 10, then that means that they've paid their due, and no one is coming back to come after them unless there's something else. Is 10 points and you lose this. And I don't know.
No.
That's...
It's 10 points. What Everton actually said is they were appealing the decision because Everton worked with the Premier League voluntarily, unlike City, who are using lawyers to try to beat those charges. Everton actually did face up with the charges, and they said yes, this is the reason why.
Correct.
And one of the most was COVID during COVID season, because there were no fans in the stadium. They didn't get that. There was a reduction on TV revenue, so they didn't make enough money as they used to. And the club was in dire need. They needed to buy players to be able to fix that, to improve their team.
Correct.
So that is how they said they couldn't make the money, and they went. And do you know the funny thing is, Everton actually exceeded by 10 million. You are given a leeway of up to 105 million pounds. Everton was 115 million pounds.
Okay, so
they
I
had
don't
10 million
see it as an
over.
issue for Chelsea. Meaning
No,
whatever.
Chelsea have
20.
Chelsea have 20
violations.
Yeah, but
among those 20 violations, that includes money that was paid,
by
was
Abramovich.
paid illegally to agents, players, families. Chelsea and Man City also were not making enough money. They cooked their books to show that they were making enough money than what they were spending.
Yeah, there's an issue of money with Abramovich. I know that. For
Yeah.
me, whatever it is, I just don't see that the punishment is going to be so retrogressive to the point where you kick a team out totally because of that punishment. I don't think that
But
the
then
punishment is
it
supposed
has
to
happened-
be
it has
retrogressive.
happened
So
before.
let's wait and
It-
see what happens.
Now I
It has
think
happened before in football, though.
I think
remember Juventus.
Juventus was kicked out of the Serie A. Now remember,
I'm not gonna use that because I'm always gonna go with what the English Premier League is doing, as opposed
but
to.
if you go by the English Premier League,
Okay, so
Omosh,
if you go by what the
if you
English
go-
Premier League is doing,
Yeah.
this is what they've done. They've docked
They've docked 10 points from
because of
Correct.
one
That
violation.
that's fine. So let's wait and see, because if you're gonna say that, say Man City has 100 and some change, then they might as well stop playing now.
So here's the deal, Omosh. As if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be worried, because I think most likely, we of course have to wait to see what will happen. I think most likely Chelsea will be docked off some points in Man City, and if it's 30 points, because it's very possible if Everton is being docked 10 points for one violation,
Correct.
and there's 20 that are being investigated for Chelsea.
Yes.
If they get docked, let's say 30 points, for example,
Yes.
depending on where you stand at the end of the season, you could possibly be in a
Relegated.
relegation zone.
I don't.
Championship.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is I don't think even the one for Everton is gonna stand.
It is gonna stand. The
I-
only thing
well,
that
they're
Everton-
appealing.
No, they are appealing,
It-
and that's why I'm
they-
saying I
they-
don't think it's gonna
they're going-
stand as is.
Omosh, Everton are appealing, and what Everton are appealing, Everton said they were expecting to get at least 6 to 8 points deducted, not 10 points.
And that's
That is what they were.
But that's
they were
why I say that
expecting
it's not going to
deduction. And
stand.
then-
So let's wait and
and
see
then-
what happens.
okay,
I'm good.
Omosh,
Yeah.
remove your.
I'm just trying to be logical about this, but you guys seem to be bringing things that are not there.
I'm trying to be logical with you too. Not
How?
about the towards your Chelsea.
Ndio nifanye?
This is one violation. They've gotten 10 points.
Correct.
Let's assume out of your 20 violations, you are found guilty of 4, right?
Yes.
And then as per what they're giving now, it's 40 points. Out of those 4, you appeal. You instead of 40, then for each violation you get 6.6 points, right? So if you give 6 and those are 4, that's 24 points. 24 points is still going to hurt you very bad.
Mika,
And that is why they're saying Man City, who have 115 charges, and let's say maybe 20 to 25 of those charges are going to stick for Man City. And that is why they're talking relegations for that. And then some of the breaches that you guys made were worse than Everton. Everton are only 10 million on the red. You guys are in excess of more than $1 billion.
And if we go back to all of those things, a lot of those things are about COVID, the war in Ukraine, blah blah. There's a whole lot of other things. See, zile violations za nani? Anaitwaje? Abramovich.
Chelsea paid agents money out of the game, backdoor.
Boss, mimi niko as a Chelsea fan tuko poa. As a Chelsea fan tuko poa, tuendelee.
Okay, we Where even were we?
We were talking about relegation and Chelsea, and I gave my opinion, and me, I said as a Chelsea fan, I'm not worried about it.
Okay, like I'm not a Chelsea fan. I'm worried about it.
I'm not worried about it, and part of the reason why I say I'm not worried about it is that it would be very interesting retrogressively to see what they're going to do with Man City, being that they are the ones who are champs. Let's see what they do.
They can be relegated. Remember where Juventus was relegated to. And the thing is, the good thing or the bad thing about this is, if Man City and Chelsea were relegated, they are rich enough to bounce back the next season.
Yes, like Juventus did in the Italian Serie A.
They are rich enough to. So if Chelsea right now was relegated, they will win the championship in a canter without even any team trying to beat them. It's the same way with Man City. They have the squad, they have the players, they have the resources to survive staying in the championship. It's teams like Everton, teams like, let's say a team like not even Brentford, a team like Bournemouth was deducted points right now, and it was relegated. It's going to be very hard for them to come back.
Pockets.
Yeah. They might even go
like
lower.
Chelsea, teams like City, Arsenal, United, Liverpool, those are teams that can actually take a relegation and come back up.
Yeah. Na hizi financial violation zilifanya Man City kashinda sijui leagues ngapi. But anyway, that's a story for another day.
And that's where I'm coming from. It's like, well, why weren't these things being enforced then? Mbona sahi ndio wanasema wana enforce na wanajua hizi ndio story walikuwa nacheza.
Actually, Man City, this is what City did. City has money. City got the charges, and then they hired lawyers, and those lawyers kicked that case to long grass. Like,
car lawyers were Trump
keep asking for extensions and extensions and extensions of their hearing.
Yeah.
And they continue playing. So they could have faced it at that particular time and gotten rid of it and moved on, but I guess they want to see how it goes.
Okay. All right, so we'll see how things go, but now as we wait for Moshfire to do the hit or miss segment, we want to do a quick recap of last week's episode, where we had Rehema, like from Kenya, and Jide talking about, like the emerging conflict between Gen Zs and their parents, and it turned out to be a very interesting and a very revealing episode. I'm gonna start with you, Ruth, because you are not in studio, you are listening to it from afar. So just quickly tell us, like, what did you pick up from that episode? Was there any aha moment for you? Like, was there things that you felt like you wanted to know more? What was it? How was the show for you?
So for me, it gave me an even brighter light into the experiences these kids face. So I taught Sunday school for like 6 years, and I started like the best age to start teaching for me was middle school.
Okay.
So I had this like 20 kids that I stuck with from middle school until they graduate high school.
Oh wow.
So and actually not this year was the last one who just graduated, because she was like the youngest. But like, so I have been around kids growing up in the American system, and sometimes I literally will be the bridge between them and the parents, and I got to learn a lot. But listening to Rehema last week, I almost felt like, did I ever miss any signs of bullying in the kids I was that I was with for those years? For the most part, like, I never really heard anything, but like, I have seen the kids change. Some have been very stable, they're now in college and stuff, and I still checking on them, but there are some who just really never flourished, so to say. And I from last week, I've been wondering, could that have been the case? Because part of the reason why I did volunteer to teach Sunday school was I saw the need of connection these kids were looking for, and some of the times they'll come talk to me where they couldn't talk to their parents. It was like, they won't get me, they will not understand, and I would just be the person to listen to. If I thought it was something that I could come in, bridge between them and the parents, I would talk to the parents and say, no, just listen to them. Like, this could be something that is an issue for them. But it was never really around bullying. It was more around fitting in.
Okay.
But hearing Rehema and the bullying experience that she went through, for me, that, and I'm not a parent, but like, I think I've been around these kids. So I was like, these are my kids. Like, I felt like a really ownership in that sense. And I literally did wonder, did I ever miss any signs that they were struggling beyond just what they let me know? So I one thing I would definitely say is we need a parents edition, wherever such that is literally needed. We need to have a place where I think one thing we need to be very aware is some of these parents really don't know what to do, because the culture they're being presented with by the kids clashes so much with what they grew up with. And for the most part, unless you step outside of your comfort zone, what you know is what you know. And you might try to enforce these things, and they really are just like, will not mesh with the kids. And I think we need a space where parents can, one, just come to place and actually talk about their vulnerabilities about parenting in the US.
You know, for me, before we got to you, Uno, for me, the very telling thing was you have kids and then you have parents. It's one thing when a parent knows there's an issue and they don't know what to do. But it's on another level when the parent doesn't see any issue. Because I think that was part of what Rehema and Jide was saying.
Yeah.
You would bring up something and then they would say, pray about it, or they would just not see it as an issue. And when you don't see something as an issue, you're not out there sourcing solutions. Yeah. So to me, that was actually very scary. So bullying, interestingly enough, wasn't even part of the plan, the show plan that we had. Bullying wasn't there. Which goes to show you that a lot of us in this generation
Don't get it.
We don't get it, and we don't even see. We probably heard about bullying, and then maybe our thinking is, I was bullied when I was in high school. I was niliambwa nijaze giza kwa chupa, some other crazy things. So you don't see, like this on social media bullying here as an actual thing. And
do you know why though?
Yeah.
Because we were never socialized to actually see the things that we went through in high school were bullying.
Yes, absolutely.
So like, you're told, toughen up. So when I say these parents don't even know what to do, is because they're going by what they know. So when they were in high school, they were told, toughen up. Like, that is normal. Everybody goes through that.
Yeah.
Get. So these parents, like, their encounter with bullying was never recognized as bullying to begin with. It was more of like a rite of passage. Like, people will be tough on you and things like that. And so unaenda kwambia babako, like, this happened to me. Unaambwa hata mimi nilifanya hivyo. So these parents are basically repeating
and then now imagine what you're going to tell your parent is, I got Oreoed. Like that experience that Rehema gave us. Mike.
Oh, that was bad.
I think in order for you to have a solution or find a solution, you need to know what's going on.
Yes.
But some parents are just
Clueless.
unaware.
You need to know there's a
Clueless.
problem. You need to understand there's a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're not going to understand that when, one, you're just doing doubles and triples.
And there's no open
Which I
dialogue
understand.
as well.
Which I
there's
understand.
that. Yes.
But then also, like you say, there's no open dialogue. And the open dialogue is, it's the concept of, what can a kid tell me? I'm providing you a roof over your head. I'm paying school fees and I'm feeding you. And usome.
But you see,
What else? I mean, the mentality. So that mentality, some parents will push that. And pushing that, of course, the kid says, even if I come and talk to you, you're not gonna see it. But also, even for us, we are not open to that fact. I think, like what Ruth is saying, I think we were not socialized enough to see bullying. All we saw was monolization, and it was a
Which
rite
is
of passage.
yeah.
But we saw it as monolization, a rite of passage, because it used to happen to first formers. So when ukiingia second form, first form akikuja, the way
you're now the
Same.
purveyor of the
Yeah,
bullying.
Same.
But then,
Uno,
let me jump up a kidogo as somebody who's raising a Gen Z, the same age like Rehema. One of the things is that when we look at bullying and when we see a bullying, what we know as bullying and what they know as bullying are two very different things. Like our experiences are very different cultures, different areas, different places. Now, as a parent, one thing you're supposed to know is you need to know your kid. You need to know your child to a point whereby when you look at them and you see there's something wrong with this kid, and you get to now take off your parenting outfit and wear your friend outfit, and be able to, first of all, you have to be able to be somebody who can have a rapport with their kids, right? Si wale wazazi ukiingia kwa living room, mtoto anaenda kwa bedroom, ama anaenda place, you're supposed to be able to build a comfortable environment for your kids to be able to talk to you and be open with you. And then now you're also supposed to be able to know your kids. And once you know your kids, you'll be able to realize when things are different, especially in that age when they get into their teenhood. That is one of their most sensitive, because like you ulikuwa na adole, pia wana go through your adole. They're confused with hormones. They're torn in between their grown-ups, their kids. They don't know who they are. Everything is just new and strange to them. And one of the things that you have to do is you have to learn your kid. You have to know your kid, because some of these conversations are going to be conversations that you have to initiate yourself. You even note them waiting for you. Like your kid might be Oreo, and then they look at you and they'll be like, even if a child is clueless, they won't know what that is. Right? It's just like, she's just a baby. He'll just tell me like, let me go to that school and cause chaos. Why is somebody bullying my kid? Why is somebody doing this? And remember, Kinarema was saying it. They were scared of sometimes saying things at home because of how the dad is going, how the parent is going to go to school and react to actually cause more problems to them. So it's more of you as a parent. You have to be able, like the way you learn when you're at work, you know how to read moods. You have to know how to read the moods of your kid. You have to know that something is bothering this child and get away of how you're talking to them. And another thing that you have to realize is that mistakes doesn't mean your kid is a bad kid. Mistakes means your kid is learning. They made a mistake because they didn't know better. Okay. It's up for you to see an opportunity to teach them that what you're doing now is wrong.
Okay.
And this is how we're supposed to maneuver this situation.
Okay.
Not everything is being sorted out by punishment.
And to add on to that, I think, mine was, I'm still learning. So again, the disconnect of what I experienced and what I thought was versus now what these kids are going through, I really truly enjoyed. But them opening up and letting us know what goes on or what happened to them.
Yeah, and giving specific examples.
Specific examples. And I think in addition to what Mika is saying, learning your child means talking and communicating and opening those channels. Mnafungua, mnaketi chini, mnaongea, how was your day, how was your school, what's going on or whatever, empathizing, showing them. Because again, as from Form 1 to Form 2, somebody said, what we went through is different. These kids are facing, like what Rehema was saying, what you guys went through was in Kenya. Mm-hmm. You guys were just they were just black people. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. Here we have Kenyan American, we have Mexican Americans, whatever. They're
not interested in stories about fetching
water. Fetching water.
The river.
So now here we are dealing with nationalists. We are dealing with people who have got QAnon parents, people who believe that we should go back to our countries. Those are the challenges that we as parents have to sit down and absorb and realize that our kids, because when we came here, we were 19, we were 2021. Yeah. We didn't go through high school. Yeah. So there's also that we need to realize that we didn't go to high school. And I think that was mentioned.
And we also have to realize that most of us, and this is something that people don't like acknowledging, is that we lacked parental guidance when we came here. Because we were still kids.
We were kids.
We lacked parental guidance, and our guidance was coming from friends and, like people you're hanging around with. So there's a stage where there still needs to be some parental guidance between age 18 to age maybe even, I would say, up to 27, 28, that it just wasn't there. We were making decisions for ourselves. So at the time when the people who are young, getting kids in their early 20s, they were kids who are getting kids in an environment that they were not familiar with. So what I would want us to achieve with a parents edition, because I think some people have said here in the comments
We should have one.
that we should do a parents edition. I think we need to, you know, the same way we have sessions about understanding careers in the US, understanding finances in the US. I think this is a very, very important topic that parents need to be educated on, that I don't know how it escaped us all these years. And that's because, of course, we don't know what we don't know. So this was a very eye-opening experience for me, and I believe for everyone in the panel and everyone who was tuned in, what Jide and Rehema said last week. Ruth.
I think another thing that I feel, because we did not go through high school, middle school and high school here, so we don't have that context of what really happens, right? So like, as you said, we basically parented ourselves for the most part. For most of our adulthood, we did just parent ourselves. But I think one thing we need to do, and people who have not done this work, is actually learn about race relations in America, because there are parents who still have their heads in the sand to date.
Okay.
And I think
There's
then
one-
they don't know. Can I finish, Mika? And then they don't know how to help their kids navigate those scenarios. And the biggest thing is, how do we have parents open up in terms of like, learn that we're not in Kenya anymore. There are, just as there's tribalism in Kenya, and you got to learn how to navigate that. You need to learn how to navigate racism, and not only for yourself, but for your children as well, because you need to guide them through that.
That's a very
I just
valid
want to say
point.
one thing is that, as we are saying, as we're planning to have a show, let's not just assume that we're talking to parents who are here alone, because right now the world is a global village. And trust me, the same issues, a majority of the issues that us parents who are raising kids here are facing is the same issues that people raising kids in Kenya are facing. I see it with my nephews and nieces. And these kids resonate with each other regardless of where they are, regardless of which part of the world they are. They resonate with each other on some of the struggles they're going through. Remember, your kid on TikTok is going to get racially profiled even if it's in Kenya, or even if it's in Nigeria or is in Burundi. They're still interacting with all these other races. They interact with all these other people. They're being exposed to the ugly side that is not you or school that's protecting them. So it's still boils down to a way of how are we raising these kids in this generation as parents, because these kids are global kids these days. It's not us. When we came to America, the knowledge we had for America was what we saw on TV. Now they're exposed more to what's happening because of those social media platforms and those people they interact with on the internet. So when it gets to a time whereby, and then when it gets to a point whereby maybe there's going to be a kid in Africa who comes to school here, or there's going to be a kid who goes to Europe or goes to work in another country, if the parenting was done wrong, regardless of where they are, it's still going to be, life is going to be hard with them. We have kids, Gen Zs are killing themselves the most everywhere in the world. They're the most depressed demographic in the world right now. So it's a challenge not just facing us here as parents, but it's a challenge that's facing all parents within our age group who are having kids within this part of us. So we have to figure out while we are doing that show or while we're having this discussion, not just to tie it down to how it is to raise kids here in America.
Okay. All right. Asante sana, Mika. Yeah, the comments are so much, but we have to keep moving because time is really running out. We're gonna read them maybe a bit later. Now, the one quick thing before we get to DJ Moshfire, who's already on the decks, ready to flex his fingers. I'll just one quick thing I wanted to say. The one part that really got me as a surprise and a shock was the fact that they actually wanted to learn their native languages.
Yeah.
That came as a shocker to me because my assumption was, okay, they've grown up here and they see this language as a language for their parents, so they don't really care about it. So that was quite quite a surprise for me. So with that said, okay. All right, okay. I think,
Rumosha ametuharakisha.
okay,
So-
okay, we get the message. The rules are the same. There you go. It's been a while. We want the audience to rate each song that DJ Moshfire is gonna play from 1 to 5, 1 star to 5 star, with 1 being a big miss and 5 being a big hit.
We have to say goodbye to the guys on YouTube.
Yes, YouTube. If you wanna listen to this, you have to jump in on Facebook because we don't want the whole video to be taken out. So YouTube, please jump in on Facebook if you wanna listen to hit
So
or miss.
let's just say bye bye to
Yes.
Bye,
Qua-
YouTubers.
Bye YouTube, kwaheri. So
over there.
yeah, wherever you are.
Bye, YouTube.
Yeah.
Just say bye.
There's so many
Bye
cameras here.
YouTube. Bye YouTube.
Okay, all right. DJ Moshfire, twende kazi.
La la la